this point by like at least the second half of the episode. This is not where we should be starting.
Y'all, we just had a 30-minute. We realized we're 30 minutes we've been sitting here.
We're so late, and you have a heart out too.
Oh my God, I do.
Yep. Welcome everybody to the thirstiest ever edition of Splice and Splatter, the film podcast presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico. We're classic horror.
He's modern gore. Oh my God, bless you for just jumping into that, because you're right. I do have a heart out.
You do have a heart out.
Yeah, we were just talking about. I was sharing the news of. Was it Death from a Unicorn? Death by a Unicorn.
Death of a Unicorn.
Got there eventually.
Which sounds to me like it should be the name of like an unauthorized The Last Unicorn sequel.
Yeah, it's not a great name, I would say, but I couldn't remember Will Poulter's name. Kept calling him Nicholas Holt, and then Siena called him
Nicholas Poulter.
Yeah, Nicholas Poulter. So that's what we're giggling at.
We're doing great.
If you care.
Yeah, which I'm sure you don't. Hopefully you don't. If you do, I'm worried.
We are talking about death today, though. Oh my God.
We're always talking about death.
I was going to say,
to be fair,
for those
this
watching,
is a horror podcast.
I do want to say, oh, that's true. We are always talking about death. What's going on?
Oh,
this is going to be a good episode. I'm really excited about this.
Me
but for those
too.
watching, fit check. Me and Siena. We said this. Yeah, Siena walked in and said.
This is the outfit that I've been most excited for. I have saved this shirt specifically for the first time we did a vampire episode.
Oh my God, I haven't even looked at it, I realized.
Well, it has
it's so gauzy.
Yeah. Well, the sleeves do go all the way down, but I'm not a fan. But I'm wearing a little fake blood capsule necklace, which
I love that.
Is a matching one to the one that my character Karen wears in the movie. My in Raid on Stodders, not in the movies that we're talking about today. To clarify.
Like, who's that?
Yeah, my costume designer got like a double pack of these guys from Hot Topic, and she was like, one is for the character, one is for you, because you guys have to be matching. So
I saw those. I saw little blood vials in Spirit Halloween. I can't tell you how many times I almost picked it up for you. So that's so funny. I wonder.
You were subconsciously picking up on the vibe.
I don't know why. You saying it was Hot Topic.
Mm-hmm.
I was convinced someone just filled the vial with their own blood for you. Which I really want to do. Isn't it romantic?
I feel like I can talk somebody into this.
Yeah, me.
Yeah.
You don't even have to talk me to do it.
Hey, Al.
Christmas gifts? Swapsies? Blood swapsies?
Okay, we're doing only creative gifts this year, but they have to be blood-based.
Yeah.
Splice and Splatter themed. We're recording
God.
this episode before Christmas. You guys are listening to it after Christmas.
We're batching these bad boys so we can have a holiday.
Which,
can't wait.
I can't wait.
Yeah, I will just be watching endless movies.
Oh my God. Yeah, this is going to be my first time that I'll have time to watch something other than horror in a long time.
Oh my God, yeah. I've been watching Christmas horror. Oh, shout out really quick. We did our episode on Black Christmas, the original, 1978?
74.
74. I'm making my way of watching the other two remakes.
Yes.
I watched the
2006.
Atrocious. Nobody waste your time. Or do. I almost couldn't watch it, and it's like star-studded.
And it's 2006, which is right in Al's prime.
It did too. I was shocked. I should have liked it in theory. I'm curious of what you all have to say about it. The original is the better one by far so far. I'm curious the 2018, but
I've heard only worse things about the newer one. So
I don't think I can. We'll see if I can get there.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, but today,
what are we talking about?
Talking about vampires,
yes,
Draculas, if you will. Dracul. All the ways that they say.
Yes, so many different ways.
So many different
varying qualities of accents.
Yeah.
In these two movies.
Oh my God, yeah. We'll get. God, I wish you were going first.
But there's a lot to talk about.
It was like, when did mine come out? 94's Interview with the Vampire is what I'm doing today.
And I'm doing 92's Bram Stoker's Dracula, which we were all saying beforehand. All of us keep wanting to say Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
It's
glad you're
gonna
covering
be
that one.
Difficult.
Yeah.
So
and then we said Ham Strokers, like our porn name. So you all are welcome.
Yep. I'm sure somebody's made that.
Yeah.
If not, my next project, calling it right here.
Should I tell people my serial killer name?
Yes, do.
As I do. I was threatening Trav today.
Right?
And I said I was
An important part of your relationship dynamic.
I was going to say, this is all in good fun, so
Yes.
nobody take this
He loves
seriously,
it.
please. But I was saying that I was going to stab him in the neck twice is what I was like, oh, I'm going to stab you in the neck. Oh, twice. And then I'd be a little vampire serial killer. And then my notorious name in the headlines would be the Dracula.
I love that.
And I think it's great.
good.
So again, just sharing some just some things for you all to take.
So when Travis inevitably dies and turns up with 2 tiny puncture wounds on his throat, we'll know who to call.
Yep. And just please give me that name. You know what I mean?
I'm on it.
Oh my God. Where do we go from here?
I'll be your serial killer publicist.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I need a PR team for that one. Actually, that's kind of, I almost feel like I want to jump in.
Is that a good segue?
It's weirdly a really good segue for me. I'll tell you.
How is that a good segue?
I will tell you. Do we want to just dive in?
Just dive in.
Okay.
And then if you want tids, I can give you tids. If not, I can save them. But like, if that's a good segue, let's save that. Let's go into
this
that.
This is kind of my tids. So
yes,
maybe I'll start
it.
off with oopsies, my thing's on. No! The one person I didn't block.
No.
Shout out Sid.
Oh my God, of course. This is Sid's second on-air accidental appearance via text notification.
I love Sid too much to mute them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, this will be my tid because I realized I accidentally didn't rewrite it in my words. I kind of dump things at the top and then forget about them. So,
Great.
Interview with a Vampire, release date 1994. It came out, it was set to come out. No, it did come out November 11th of 94. So, I'm not sure if you knew about this or have heard about this, but the film was subject to controversy due to an inspiring real-life true crime story.
I've not heard about this.
Me either, which I'm really surprised. I mean, I think it was like small enough of a story, and I don't know if it just got buried
widely.
Yeah, I feel like the media was like, let's keep this quiet. So on November 17th, so 6 days after the release of Interview with a Vampire, a man named Daniel Sterling and his girlfriend of 8 years, Lisa Stellwagen, watched the film. I know, wild names. The 90s, what a wild time.
Sterling and Stellwagen. That sounds like a terrible attorney's office.
Oh my God, yes.
The law Sterling and Stellwagen.
Well, unfortunately, he needed a lawyer. So the next day after watching Interview with a Vampire, Sterling stabbed his girlfriend, again of 8 years, 7 times in her chest and back and sucked the blood from her. She luckily survived.
What?
He was arrested, but he claimed in court that the film influenced this plan, and obviously they convicted him of first-degree murder and several charges. And then I have a quote from him really quickly that I found.
Murder? Was it
first-degree attempted murder,
yeah,
and several other charges. He testified and said, "I want to kill you and drink your blood, and tonight you're going to die." Wild, right? So that was my segue.
Honey, you missed the point that he's going to give you the choice that he never had.
I know.
It's all about consent,
Listen,
sir.
He was probably getting a little handsy in the theater. He wasn't watching the full movie.
He wasn't paying attention.
Or he was coming to terms with maybe he liked seeing men touch each other on screen. He was like,
he's got some
I need my own Lestat.
He needs to do some stabbing about it.
Stat.
God damn it.
So I'll say that's my tip. I'll pass the bit on to you.
Yeah, let me open up my notes that I
hate
can
that
actually
I
give you
giggled through that. That's a very serious matter. I'm glad she's alive.
Glad she's alive.
Yeah.
Can't believe I haven't heard of that.
The vampire. It was called like the vampire murder, or like, I don't know, vampire killer. I don't know. He didn't kill anybody, but
Jesus.
Yeah, wild.
Okay. So, unsurprisingly, my film is a direct influence on your film. And so my little tid is a quote that I brought in from Neil Jordan, the director of your film, about my film.
Oh my God, I love that.
Start off the conversation.
Whoa, the circle.
So here's our Neil Jordan quote. Up until that point, because of course these films came out almost exactly 2 years apart from each other.
Okay.
Because they were both released around like November, December too. 92 and 94. So up until that point, Francis Ford Coppola with Bram Stoker's Dracula, he introduced opulence and theatricality. Normally, before that one, I always thought of vampire movies as cheap, cobbled together, brilliant use of minimal resources. Francis made this epic, didn't he? Which is kind of the Francis Ford Coppola thing.
Yeah.
He
He's
loves
that
to
guy.
be extra. He loves to be extra.
Yeah, and boy, oh boy.
So when I was given the opportunity to make an Interview with the Vampire, I thought, oh, it would be really great to expand on that epic sense of darkness and to give these characters these huge kind of romantic destinies and longings and feelings. So
Love that. That's weird that you came in with my director. Excuse me. That's my director.
I
That's
also
amazing.
have a tid once we move into my segment,
Yeah.
but like I figured I'd do one for each of
Love
us.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It's I feel like the 90s was like such a time for
It was
'cause I realized
Dusk Till Dawn too.
Oh,
which
that's
came
what I-
out,
yeah.
2 years after yours.
Buffy.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, what were
There
we
was a
doing?
vampire craze going
Yeah.
on in the 90s, and
Yeah.
it's fascinating, and it's so, I don't know if you listened to the podcast You Must Remember This by Karina Longworth. It's like a film history podcast, and they've been doing a segment.
Everyone likes them.
Yeah, they're so good, really well researched, and she just did a segment on like the history of the erotic thriller and how that's something that kind of like we're starting to get people like dipping their toes into it again, but the 90s were like the last time we really had good erotic thrillers, and a lot of them were vampire movies. And so
That's so funny.
when I say this is our thirstiest episode yet, it's
Yeah.
part of a trend.
Yeah.
This was the time for thirsty vampire thrillers.
Isn't that wild? Yeah. The 90s was really quite the time for like sexuality, even like the empowerment of like female sexuality, and even like
I mean, like Showgirls came out in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like it was a time when things were happening in movies that like we now live in a comparatively sexless time for film. Like there are
when we get them though, we like again like Saltburn. I feel like we're like
it's I feel like we're having
Craving it.
reactions to films that are sexual, like Saltburn, that like it just shows how
Challenges,
far away we've strayed from that because we're
Yeah.
so stunned by it when we do get like a little bit of bathtub licking.
I know,
Like,
right? Like
it's just a little bathtub licking. Look at what they were doing in the 90s. My God.
truly. Yeah. It's funny too because I mean, just to start, I kind of said like I'm not a vampire. It's not really the genre that I go towards. Then I realized I'm such a big fan of Buffy. So I'm like, I
was
feel like a
like-
liar.
I
little
kind of
bit.
had the feeling that you were going to come into this episode and be like, I'm into vampires now.
I kind of am.
I knew it. I knew it.
I feel
Travis
like
is just shaking his head. Yeah,
I know. Well,
you called it too, didn't you? Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
All right, everybody. Again, shut up.
Yeah.
You're usually all right.
Well, because this was Al's first time seeing both of these films. I
Yeah.
had seen Dracula, but not Interview with a Vampire. Neither of us had seen that.
No.
So,
Yeah.
should we start
Yeah, we'll
there with
just-
watch experience?
Oh yeah.
I don't mean to like tell you how to run your
Let's
segment.
do
What
that
am I
because I feel like
doing?
no, I'm
But-
like chomping at the bit to actually say my
Yeah.
piece on something. Really
say it. Say it.
Tom Cruise as Lestat. I almost like don't have words for how obsessed I am with him. He gives me Spike vibes.
Yeah, it makes
From
sense.
Buffy.
Yep.
I don't think for a millisecond, and I never thought I'd say these words, that I think Tom Cruise is hot, specifically as a character. But
I said
oh my
the same
God.
thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I actually like
I was
I
like,
put it on again this morning, getting ready.
of course you did. I was like live texting my reactions to
Yeah.
the movie. And after I finished, the first thing I wrote was, I always thought that I was too gay to ever
Yeah.
find either Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt remotely attractive.
Yeah.
Because like, they're just too.
Well, they're like they're like hot for like men, like straight men.
They're too mask for
Really,
me.
yeah.
I just can't.
Yeah.
They're not too mask here.
Yeah. Well, I have a thing with Brad. I also can't stand Brad Pitt's character in this. I'm
Fair.
like,
He's-
you know what? You go into the bog.
Just
You go in there.
Yeah. What is it with all these morals? You're a vampire. Have fun. Relax.
He gave you
live
a
little.
choice.
Yes.
Damn.
You took
Also,
it.
you're still killing other animals that
Yes.
are also innocent lives.
Yeah.
So like, get it together.
Yeah.
Bro.
You're not above this.
Yeah.
He's so
but then
on
he
his
changes
high
anyways.
horse. Yeah.
Anyways, but Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
That blonde hair. Oh my God.
The ending?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I was, he left. So I just gonna jump in. He left so early in the movie. I was like, no.
Yeah.
And then he came back. And I
Yeah.
was
Of
very
course he's
happy
going to come
about it.
back. He's Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so My watch experience was me thirsting over Tom Cruise.
Yep, same. Which I was
the
not
entire
expecting.
time.
Which I know is
So good.
I've heard that was pretty much Anne Rice's experience too. That she thought it was going to be terrible casting. I don't want to
get into it.
You know the actual story.
Oh, that's the nice way of putting it. So we will get into what her true feelings
Can't
were.
wait.
It's fucking hilarious. I feel like this is a very talked about film.
Yes.
I am not doing film theory rank corner for this.
Oh my god, that is the worst I've ever.
You gotta put it back down now.
The look Warren just gave me.
Sienna just slapped their pop. What's it called? The pop guard? Mine's ripping, so mine doesn't even count anymore. Sienna whipped out. She was like, "No film theory rant corner."
That's mine.
Falling. So not doing that. I'm not really talking about this film is so gay and the best fucking way ever that I just feel like I was a squealing teen. If I would have seen this younger, I could have added this into my sexual awakening. You know what I mean?
I knew it.
Both of these
Same.
films are fair.
Yeah.
Winona Ryder and
oh my god,
Dracula is unreal.
Yeah. Yep.
But so
Yep.
I'm kind of just I'm hoping you all listen and you walk away with something, at least one nugget that you didn't know about this film.
I love it.
I have a lot of good special effects stuff, and then a lot of casting stories. So I'm description. We all know a vampire tells his epic life story: love, betrayal, loneliness, and hunger. I know it's called Interview with a Vampire.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize he was actually going to be interviewed. I thought it was just going to be him telling it, not actually seeing the interview portion. So that was kind of. I was like, oh, okay, is a legit interview.
Yeah.
Which I'm
it's very gothic. It's very
also, I'm does he just do this all the time? And then Lestat just goes and kills all these people, and this
Probably.
man's just bitching around town.
Probably.
Somebody tell my life story. You're not interesting.
I
You are
feel
not main character energy, buddy.
I could very much see this being their way of spicing things up
Mhm.
after so many hundreds of years together.
This is their cat and mouse game that they
This is
play.
their cat and mouse game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Foreplay, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
So tagline, I've won. It's pretty just run of the mill. Gets the point across. Says the world changes, we do not. There lies the irony that kills us. So I feel like
That's interesting because the one that I've seen on posters is "Drink from Me and Live Forever," which
damn, that's hot.
Yeah.
Fuck, didn't come in with that one.
I mean,
when I look up taglines, sometimes I get them. I didn't look at posters or anything. So
I think it's just after Morgan Crypt, I now own a little poster, which I couldn't find. I think it's buried in my car from film stuff. It exists somewhere,
yeah,
but
you're gonna bring in show and tell for me.
I was going to, and I
okay.
couldn't find it. But the original Interview with a Vampire poster said "Drink from me."
See, this is why I love your brain, because you just fill in the gaps for me.
I mean, when you
guys
tell me "Drink from me and live forever," it's gonna stick in my brain.
Tattooed on my chest. I'm jumping.
It's not yet, but it will be soon.
Jumping into budget of this. Do you like when I do the budget early? Do you like me to save it?
Do budget.
So
do budget.
Budget. I'm not surprised by this one because of who was in it. So,
do you want me to guess?
Yeah, I like when you guess. 'Cause you always nail it.
Well, because I know. I'll just state out right here that mine was 40 million, and I feel like yours.
Whoa.
Yeah, I feel like yours was probably a little less, but not that much less. 25.
Oh my god, you were gonna 60.
What?
Isn't that huge? Yeah, it was little less. That's wild knowing yours was 40 because the amount. I'm pretty sure just half the budget was casting.
That makes sense. Oh my.
Brad Pitt. I feel like both their peaks.
Okay, to be fair, also,
60.
yours shot in so many places.
It did.
I remember seeing.
I feel expensive places too. Which
yeah, I love watching through the credits of movies, and I remember seeing that there was a Paris crew, a Louisiana crew, Italy crew.
Yeah.
So that alone,
we traveled.
Wow,
we were
this is my
vampires.
worst guess yet.
Yeah,
cool.
But it made its money back.
Yeah,
so I think everyone knows how popular this film is.
Deservedly,
it ended up grossing 224 million worldwide. So
wow,
we all know. I feel like again, I feel truly. I know. I'm actually surprised. But again, the 90s.
Yeah,
I feel like if it came out, well, Nosferatu's coming out, so we're gonna see how well that will do.
We're gonna see how it does.
But,
although. Can I just say, This may be a controversial opinion. Again, we're recording this before Nosferatu's come out. You may have seen it by the time you're hearing this episode. I, at least just from what I've read about it, from the cast and from like the fact that it's based on Nosferatu, I don't think it's going to be gay enough.
Yeah,
I want it to be gayer. Mainstream. I feel like it's going to be too straight.
That's why I feel like if interview came out now and the exact same, I don't think it would do as well. I don't think it would
do as well, which is really depressing.
Yeah.
I hate that.
The 90s, man. Yeah. Sometimes I really want to go back.
Yeah. And I feel like Nosferatu is going to do really well.
Yeah.
But it's going to be the straights.
It's going to be for the straights. That's fine. They get everything anyways.
Yeah.
But we get this.
Yeah. And it's interesting because like Dracula is technically like all the couples are like quote unquote straight, but it's such a gay movie.
Yeah.
Like it is wildly gay.
Yeah.
But Nosferatu does not feel gay to me, just from the clips that I've seen. I'm like, eh.
Yeah, there's certain vampires.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I don't know where to go from gay. So not gay. Well, maybe gay is Neil Jordan, the director.
Amazing.
He's known for Greta and then The Crying Game, which I think The Crying Game definitely came out before. I'm actually very unfamiliar with his work.
I haven't seen The Crying Game.
Don't know what to like. He's respected. I feel like people like his work, but
I've heard good things.
He's the first director that I'm like, meh?
Yeah,
like I have no vibe from him really. But I do like.
Did you find any like interviews with him or anything?
Basically, my whole notes are interviews.
Amazing.
So get ready for some quotes. This is where we get into some of the fun stuff. So, writer credit goes to Anne Rice. Obviously, this was based on her novel.
Which, quick shout out to Beastly Books, which has all of the Anne Rice books, not just the Interview with the Vampire series, but also her Sleeping Beauty series. Her we carry all of like the spicy Anne Rice too.
And if you guys listen to our little mid roll where I say Anne Rice's name really stupid, I'm sorry we haven't changed it.
I love it so much.
You use the code SPLICE10, you get 10% off. So enjoy that. Also, forgot to also say we're playing Interview with a Vampire at the Cocteau Cinema.
We sure are. January 17th through 19th.
Yeah, so tickets are on sale for that. We'll have posters and stuff. But Anne Rice is credited as obviously she published this novel in 1976. It was their debut novel.
And didn't she say that she'd like never read Dracula at the time?
Oh, I don't know.
I think a lot of
she seems like she would say shit like that from what I've read about
damn
her.
Liar.
Honestly, this bitch, I say with love and peace. Yes. This bitch needs to think before she fucking talks.
Yeah, she does not have PR training. Yeah, Anne Rice.
Not at all. So, yeah, she kind of like irritates me if I'm honest. I love Neil Jordan though, so that's kind
amazing.
We've got
one good one at least. Great.
So she said she wrote the story around 1968, published the novel 1976. And although the screen credits, so it says like screenplay by Anne Rice based on her novel, the script was actually heavily rewritten by director Neil Jordan.
That tracks. Yeah.
Which we don't see in the credits. He's not listed as a writer. Why, you may ask? Well, we'll get into the story of like how
Anne Rice is a bitch.
Yeah, because she's something. Yeah. So Neil said he was actually sent the script from Anne by David Geffen and Warner Brothers, and said that he found it intriguing, but there were elements in the book that, which I love that he like is like, I noticed some things. So he read the book. He noticed there were some elements. He said. It was like the script was slightly neutered, quote unquote, is what he said. Which I'm like, for him to say that, he kind of gives like bitch energy. And I again, I don't have a feel for him, but I really like what he has to say about this film. So he asked the studio, he was like, can I just like toss you guys a version of my script and like see if you guys like it? So he did. After he submitted the script, which again, I assume it's an edit, but it sounds like he really just put a lot of more of Anne Rice in it. They very quickly put it into production after he sent it.
I love that.
But because of the contingencies with the Writers Guild, it's why
she had to have screen credit.
Yeah, so everyone kind of assumed it was her, but he was like, well, she actually, just because you can write a novel does not
Mhm.
mean you can write something. Those are completely different
Very
mediums
true.
to write for, right?
Very
Like
true.
I went into fiction writing and poetry was
Mhm.
my major when I first
Mhm.
started at school.
It's so different.
Then went to screenwriting, and it was just like
So
that
different.
jump was wild
Yeah.
for me, and I was not good.
Mm.
I was not good at it. My format sucked. Like it's just so different to write for screen then. I mean, you
It's
know better than
wildly
anyone in
different.
this room.
Well, and for a while before I did this job, I used to work a little bit as a ghostwriter for other people's screenplays, and like,
Oh.
let me just say, it's a lot more common than you think. Like,
Oof.
yeah,
I gave up real quick. I was like, you know what? I'm
So-
gonna go into production design and directing. That's what I'm gonna do.
so often the screen credit is not the person who actually wrote the majority of the script. That's all I'm
Wild.
gonna say.
I'm curious, like how many other films? Because again, nowhere did it say anything. So even now, I don't know if it's like a commonly talked about thing. Y'all can tell me if you've seen this. Special effects, Stan Winston Studios. Me and you talked about this yesterday. I have a bunch of information from them.
I'm so
A lot of my
excited.
quotes and stuff came from their website. They have blogs and quotes about stuff.
They're so proud.
It's really
That's
cool.
so
Yeah. So a
cute.
lot of those sources were straight from them. So we'll talk about that stuff. And with getting the call with
Mhm.
Interview for Vampire, Sam Winston said, quote, "Interview with the Vampire was a perfect example of how quickly you get typecast in this business," which I found very interesting that he said that. And it's like, so we're going to kind of get into a little bit
that's
of how this kind of
fascinating.
landed and why. So how did it land in the hands of Sam Winston Studios? Bear with me as I say everybody's fucking name. Everyone's got a
Buckle
really,
in.
yeah, sorry everybody. So John Rosengrant and Shane, I don't know how to, Mahan, is it Mahan?
Mahan. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm like, do we pronounce the H? It can't be Mahan.
I have no idea.
Okay,
We're
so
gonna go with that.
Shane, John and Shane, who were two special effects guys who worked at Stan Winston Studios, actually came to him, to Stan and said that they heard that Neil Jordan was going to do Interview with Vampire. And so Stan said he was interested, but he had not read the book yet.
Mhm.
Stan Winston was obviously a very big fan of Neil Jordan as a director, he said. So he kind of called Neil to set up this meeting. And Neil answered the phone and was like, "Why the fuck are you calling me? Like, you're the
Yeah.
dinosaur guy. Like, what
Oh,
do you want to do with my
interesting.
Jurassic Park?"
Yeah.
So he's like, "What do you want to do on an Interview with a Vampire?"
That's so fascinating.
Yeah. Because it makes
now-
sense
yeah,
now.
yeah.
But at the time, they were kind of
Oh,
known
that's so
for kind of this
interesting.
just
Creature design.
yeah, and the way like Neil wanted to make this film, I'm sure he wasn't thinking,
Well, he wants them to be sexy.
yeah,
and I
and like
guess,
it's a drama, and it's not
Yeah.
this like where would we need all these things?
and I guess
So,
to be fair, sexy is not what I typically associate with Stan Winston Studios work.
yes, yes.
But they
At-
sure
Up
succeeded
until that
here,
point, right?
Yeah.
So everyone was talking about these bigger projects they'd worked on. So Stan said he basically had to like pitch the hell out of himself, both to the studio and to Neil, to be
That's
like, I can do this.
wild.
He said, quote, "I had to convince him that we did makeups, that I'd started doing makeups because I'd done dinosaurs. I had to fight to get that job." So they just didn't think that he could do anything else. He's like, "That's where I started
Yeah.
though. Like, do you think I
Yeah.
just started building dinosaurs and that's
Right.
like the starting point for me?"
Well, and I also think having the dinosaur background is really great for once Lestat like drinks the alligator and like kind of gets this sort of almost reptilian look to his
Yeah.
skin. Like that's a big part of what's so satisfying about
Yeah.
that
But I
makeup.
don't think they were at that point yet.
Fair.
So, to John and Shane's credit, they had initially brought the film to Stan, to the attention of Stan, because they said, quote, "Not only were they big fans of the book,
Mhm.
they had saw this as an opportunity to do a serious horror movie in the tradition of Hammer Films," which is the British. Yeah, I
Yes.
was gonna say, for people who don't know, I had to remind myself because I'm like, why do I know that name? It's a British film production company founded in 1934, best known for gothic horror and fantasy films between the 50s and the 70s. So
They did, I think, a
They
lot
did a
of
Dracula and
Edgar
stuff.
Allan Poe adaptations.
yeah. I was gonna say, just look them up. You'll recognize
You
all
love
the posters.
them. Yeah.
So they wanted to do a horror movie in the tradition of Hammer Films, and then it was also a chance for them to do something completely different than Jurassic Park because they didn't want to get typecast as a
Right.
studio that only did big animatronics.
Which, of course,
Which
then
is
by the
genius for them
time-
to like
to be thinking about that.
to go from
Yeah.
Jurassic Park and be like already like here you are at the height of like people know you now for this
Mhm.
huge advance
Yeah.
in technology and film, and you're like, no, we'll take something a little bit
Right.
So
Well, and
people don't think
it then gives them the room that by the time Lake Placid comes around, they can take it and feel confident that they're not going to get typecast because they've already done Interview with a Vampire.
They're like, we're good.
Yeah. People know we can do shit.
Yeah, we can go back now.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really a cool way that they got brought into the project. We're getting to who this is starring. Obviously, this is like such. I feel like if you know anything, you know who's in this fucking film. So I have lots of casting notes.
Oh,
so
I'm
we will
so
be
excited.
we'll be hanging
This
out
is
here
such
for a minute.
Such a cast.
I know.
Cast heavy episode for both of our films.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. Everyone's so hot. So, starring Tom Cruise as Lestat, obviously the new love of my life. He's going
so funny
in the line of fictional men that I am obsessed with. Most of who are like evil.
Have you seen
quote, unquote.
Eyes Wide Shut?
I have not.
I think.
Is he in that?
Yes, it's him and Nicole Kidman, and a lot of people think that it's the movie that made them divorce.
Oh wait, maybe I've seen that in film school.
It is Stanley Kubrick's last movie, but anyway, I feel like now that you've
I've had the thirst.
now that you've tasted the Tom Cruise thirst, I think
you know what? That's Warren, just cut that out. I don't want to admit to that. God, yeah. Why is he? Yeah. He's like kinda. You know what I mean? Have to watch that on the list. It's on the list. I think, I just know him from like Mission Impossible, Top Gun.
Yeah, movies. Which is not.
Which like I love him in though. But like I love those.
But not hot to me.
No. Just good.
Yeah.
Him in this role too, just to take a moment, I love because we all know Tom Cruise. Well, it's hard like now to look at him any other way than like the media, and he's just like crazy pants.
Yeah. But I just see him and I'm like, Lizard Man. Like Scientology.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I was like, what's the movie Lizard Man?
Lizard Man. Sorry.
Biopic. It's a biopic about him.
Lizard Man, the Tom Cruise story.
Hey.
Makeup effects by Stan Winston.
Bro, we package so many films together on this podcast. But
somebody take notes.
Somebody call Hollywood for us. But I just like noted what a wild and beautiful performance by him.
He
in a way, like, has
committed.
He taken a role after this? Like
that
this?
He's gone to this extent.
So good.
Yeah, he worked for this.
Yeah.
And
so
I really think Eyes Wide Shut is the only other movie that I've seen him really commit to a role like that in that way. Like I've seen him give performances that hit the beats before.
He gives great like Hollywood performance. Right. But
those are the only two roles I can think of where it's like he is somebody else.
Yes.
You know, like he's not Tom
playing
Cruise.
A character.
Yeah.
He is the character.
He is Lestat.
Yeah. It was really cool. I think that's why I was able to just like separate
because it doesn't feel like it's Tom Cruise.
No.
Thank God.
Because that would So, getting into kind of who was up for this role prior. Do I have this here? I have it later. Okay, so I kind of had to break up certain things. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna say who was up for this role. The most insane person will come for a later story, and I have a visual. It truly made for Lestat, and it truly made my mouth drop. I was like, no fucking way. And then they had visuals, and I was like, how does this even exist in this world? I almost wish a parallel universe we got this version. So we'll get to that later.
Cool.
So just hang on.
Hold on to that.
Daniel Day-Lewis was originally given the part of Lestat, but dropped out weeks before filming.
Terrible.
Weeks before filming, Siena.
Thank God. Good choice. That would have been terrible. He's a wonderful actor. He's not a vampire.
That's the thing too. Like I don't think Brad Pitt is either, but I guess that's why he like doesn't feel like he wants to be one. So Daniel Day-Lewis, but weeks prior. So think about that. Tom Cruise was
nightmare.
Johnny Depp also turned it down.
That I could see being like Johnny Depp in the 90s.
He's got such dark features though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. So
I feel like he might have been better as the Brad Pitt role.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I think that would have been a very good fit.
Our good old bestie Anne Rice wanted, shout out to Kristen Pilati, wanted Rutger Hauer or Jeremy Irons.
Oh my God.
Sorry, none of you will get that.
I could see being really good.
That joke. I have no idea who that is.
The voice. He was the one in the 90s Lolita.
Oh.
Yeah. So
okay.
I think I could see him being scary in the right way.
I guess once people are cast, it's really sometimes hard for me to see someone else. Anne Rice also met with America's sweetheart, Tom Hanks. Which, for some reason, I can only see Lestat as Forrest Gump's voice. That's all my brain. Which, he actually turned down the part because he went to do Forrest Gump that came out in 1994. Can you, Anne Rice, take a seat? You wrote some good books. Stop fucking trying to mess up with casting and screenplays.
Oh, necks are like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna buy.
Oh, you're gonna buy. You never know what blood you're gonna get. Can you? Someone make a supercut, please. Somebody make a trailer out of Forrest Gump that is Interview with a Vampire. Cut that man in.
Interview with the Gump.
He's just running, but it's from Lestat. And he kept running. I can't take it. Yeah. Can you imagine? So, hope again, that's not the one that will blow your mind.
Oh my God.
That's the best part.
Jesus Christ.
So, how did Tom Cruise, not Tom Hanks, the right Tom, get the role? Director Neil said, quote, "I just saw that I liked him as an actor. As simple as that." Oh. I mean, Lestat is described as tall, rangy, which I love, and blonde-haired and all that sort of stuff. Tom was none of those things. Yeah. But he had a conviction.
Famously short.
Yeah, famous. Oh, yeah. But he had a conviction and a kind of chilling centrality to him that I thought he'd be great in this role. So I love that a director can look past.
This is like a full circle moment because it reminds me of the interview that we talked about for American Psycho, where Patrick Bateman was based on Tom Cruise interview with that like chilling, like big smile, nothing behind the eyes thing. Yeah. Yep.
There was Lestat had a little something there.
He's got that.
It clung for at least this role. Where it's just brilliant acting. That's so funny. I totally forgot about that. Tom Cruise is a person. Listen, y'all.
That's not what we're here to talk about.
Not a fan. Yeah. So Neil goes on to say too, it struck me that a huge Hollywood star was forced into this life, not unlike that life of Lestat. They have to avoid publicity. Why did I say that? The public. I'm just going to say that. Avoid crowds, keep their legend intact, and keep certain unknown ability about them. And I thought those things were parcel of Tom's life, and maybe they would make a great Lestat, and it turned out to be the case. So I like that he kind of, I think that's maybe why Tom, because again, I think he's, both of these actors, Brad Pitt, I mean, I guess kind of everyone in this fucking cast has always kind of been like, I feel like this was like their era, but they've had lots of eras within that too. It's like, I feel like they've only gotten bigger.
Yeah.
But they were pretty huge at the time. So I love that he saw those parallels. And I'm wondering if that's why Tom Cruise was able to kind of pull this, because Neil sat with him and he was like, this is kind of you.
It's you. Yeah.
You know? So I'm wondering if that's where like the performance. Director.
Yeah.
He sounds like a really cool director.
I love that.
So of course, when, like you said, Anne Rice learned about this casting, she was pissed, to say the least.
And Anne Rice is not quiet when she's pissed.
Damn, she needs a PR team. So she publicly said that Tom Cruise would not be able to do the part and called his casting, quote, so bizarre, it's almost impossible to imagine how it's going to work. And that it was, quote, the worst crime in the name of casting since the bonfire of the Vanities, which is a film from 1990. Never heard of it. So is it the worst crime in casting? I don't think so.
It was a famous failure of a movie.
The worst crime in casting.
What a like
diva. You can tell this was like,
what a diva.
It was her book. She really thought she was going to Hollywood it all.
Yeah.
And like she thought this was going to be like her project.
This is why it's dangerous when you have the writers of the novel involved in the process of making
especially like it sounds like the studio gave her too much control at the start, and so to take it away from her was hard.
She's like a star at this point. She's like a star author. Yeah, and it's dangerous. Yeah.
You could tell. But she wasn't the only one outraged. There was also backlash from the fans of the novel. I think with every adaptation you're going to get that.
For sure.
When Tom Cruise's casting was announced.
Which again, I'm sure at the time before you see it, like it doesn't make sense that it would work so well.
Yeah.
It just doesn't.
So the reason why Stan Winston Studios Shane, again, he said he didn't really understand the outrage from the fans, that he thought people may have just been responding to the fact that Tom Cruise had dark hair, dark eyes, and like his features, because Lestat in the film's obviously very pale, blonde hair, blue eyes physically. So he didn't seem to fit the part, which he thought, like, okay, people are thrown off by that.
Fair, but also, like, this is Hollywood. People wear wigs all the time.
Yeah. Also, Tom Cruise, we said
have
tiny
wigs?
human. So I think people were like, what the fuck?
Right?
He did have to stand on his little elevated platforms
His apple
for his
boxes.
scenes.
I
I
love a
know.
little Tom Cruise on an apple box.
Lestat is our little short king. Also, just a random tid, Tom Cruise prepped for this role. One of the things I should say he prepped for this role. He watched videos of lions attacking zebras in the wild. Which
Hot.
feels
Sorry.
I was gonna say, feels like Tom Cruise. Different reactions there. Moving on, we have Brad Pitt.
Cut that.
We have Brad Pitt as Louis. I don't have much on him. I can't stand his fucking character.
That's so
he
funny.
deserves to just
He's
rot.
just not interesting. I have trouble with characters who never get past the questioning the thing that's moving the plot forward phase.
Yeah, it's like this has happened, buddy.
Yeah.
You can't like
You've
you
been
don't
at
have
this for like
humanity. You are now a
several
demon.
hundred years.
Yeah.
Go see a therapist about it, deal with it, and then
Stop
yeah.
bringing down interviewers.
Yes.
Like, go to a therapist. At least get some therapy and
Yes.
then let Lestat
process things. Process
The
things,
90s.
Louis. Yeah.
So Louis, in EW interview from September 2011. Ooh. That's 2001. Never mind. I forgot there's another one. I was like, yikes.
Oh no.
Just kidding. Never forget. Yeah. There's like a quote with Katya and Trixie on the podcast, and they, oh my God, sorry guys. I'm not laughing at September 11th. I'm laughing at the fact that my brain goes to, oh wow, I'm digging a hole. Trixie and Katya talk, and Trixie brought it up, and Katya just goes, never forget, or never remember.
Oh my God.
So that's what my brain wanted to say, and I had to fight the demons to not say that. Anyways, oh my God. Just, who gave us mics?
This is a wild episode, everybody.
Shut up, Siena. Let me get my facts. So Brad Pitt revealed, just sit and drink your blood. Said that he had a miserable experience while making this film. I was going to go further into like, there's like articles about this, so y'all can do your research. But he talked about he didn't like the makeup process, the color contacts. He didn't like filming in enclosed, dark indoor areas. I'm like, did you read the script?
Yeah. What did you think this was going to be?
He actually called his friend and producer David Geffen, who we all know, and actually begged for his way out while filming this.
Honey, no, that's
learning
not
that
how
it would
this
cost,
works.
yeah. Apparently, it would cost him like $40 million to get. I don't know if he was. I wonder if that's where most of the budget one was him. He basically like toughed it out. He learned like you can't break your contract, dude.
Yeah,
like,
that's not.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
Also,
contracts exist for a reason.
Yeah, and also, I think Tom Cruise. Let me get it straight. I might have it in my notes. I think one of them didn't wear deodorant and had like poor hygiene.
Oh, that's. Gross.
I want to say.
That it was
I don't
Tom
think it was
Cruise
Tom Cruise. I think Tom Cruise has an issue with Brad Pitt. So there was just like a lot of with Pitt's pits. They were a little pitty. They were a little sour. But so there was like just a lot of, which I think is so funny because unlike what was it, No Vacancy with Luke Wilson
and what's her face?
Yeah, why
and
am I
they
blanking
didn't
on
get
her
along.
name?
Yeah,
which you could like that works.
Yeah.
In no way you'd be able to tell
yeah.
that they were not getting along, that they wanted to break the contract. So there are tons of articles out there. Neil himself speaks on it multiple times.
This is another parallel between our movies because Winona and Gary Oldman had like a falling out on the set.
No way.
Yeah, and hated each other.
That's crazy.
Have since come around, but we have
good.
stories. Yeah.
I feel like they both seem like good people as far as actors go.
I love
you know what
them
I mean?
both so much.
Me too.
Yeah.
We have Christian Slater as Daniel, which obviously we know this was supposed to be a role that went to River Phoenix. I'm so sorry, Siena, who was the original choice for the role.
Which
Slater
would have
actually
been so good.
I could, absolutely see it.
Yeah.
Slater ended up donating $250,000 of his salary to 2 of Phoenix's favorite charities. And then if you make it all the way to the end, Mean You Love end credits, you can see the little dedication to River Phoenix.
Yeah, breaks my fucking heart, man. Yeah. I think all the time about the roles that he would have gone on to play.
I was thinking about it last night, actually, when I watched this. I do think Christian Slater was the best choice.
They have like a River Phoenix
energy
like
about
if you can't cast River Phoenix.
Yeah, it was kind of like weird to I don't know. I feel like I saw like an overlay of like River Phoenix.
I feel like he's very much channeling him.
I think he probably was trying to do a performance that would make him proud. Yeah. So R.I.P.
Yeah. Everybody knows my River Phoenix now.
I know. I'm sorry. I was like, oh.
Yeah. As soon as I saw that, I like burst out sobbing. I was like, it's been 30 years. What's wrong with me?
Sad, man. We have Kirsten Dunst's Claudia, little baby Dunst. Killer performance. I believe she was like up for some hefty nominations for this. I think she was up for an Oscar nom for this, or at least close to it.
I could imagine her being like shortlisted at least.
Yeah. So there was definitely like her. It's wild to think how young she was and the performances that came out of her. But she's always been that bitch, man.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking watching these 2 films, there's so many performances that then go on to Little Women, the 94 version.
Yeah, that's where they converge,
actually. Yeah.
In another life.
It's the Venn diagram intersection.
Yeah. Actually, all little vampire Little Women movie.
Little vampires.
So Claudia, up for the role of Claudia was, I feel like, all the hits of child actors. So Christina Ricci, we have Julia Stiles, Natalie Portman, Evan Rachel Wood, all auditioned for the role. I think all of them would have killed it. Yep. So could do no wrong. In regards to casting Kirsten in the role of Claudia, Neil said that the minute he saw her, it was wildly apparent to him that her life would be acting and she would just continue to do this as her work for the rest of her life, which I know she took a break there. I'm so glad to see her back doing stuff.
It's so good. Well,
I think she needed that break.
Definitely. And she particularly like child actor Kirsten Dunst had this wonderfully like bratty quality to her, like in this and in Little Women, that just you don't see that a lot in child actors. I feel like a lot of them are cast for the sweetness and
now I just watched an interview for the film Now and Then with all the children actors. Christina Ricci's in that too. Yeah. They are talking like 45-year-old adults, and those are the are the actors that are still you know what I mean. Those child actors still have gone on to do amazing performances. So there's inherently this like little adult that lives in some of these children actors where I'm like, their sense of awareness and emotions and stuff is so cool to watch. So
which is exactly what you need for this character who's literally an adult in a child's body.
I can't even imagine. So Neil goes on to say, quote, "I'm normally terrified of casting a kid because they're so young and it can affect their lives really horribly in many ways." Yes, self-awareness.
Yes.
But this girl had a blazing talent and an extraordinary beauty, and we were as protective of her as we could be in terms of a child being on set. Obviously, I think she was like 10 in this.
That's unbelievable.
So she wasn't allowed to watch the film when it was released because her parents thought it was too scary for her.
Smart.
She was 12 at the time. Sorry.
Okay. Still, my God.
But to the violence on set, Neil said that she didn't have to witness much of it, and that, quote, "I don't think there were any disturbing scenes that she had to witness." And in scenes like cutting Lestat's throat, he said that there were, quote, "a huge prosthetic on Tom's throat and the blood spilling out. But the shooting of it wasn't disturbing. It was practical." And then it was delightful to see her take that demonic energy and make it her own. But sometimes kids are like that, aren't they? Which is so funny. Warren walked in. We were calling kids demons today.
We sure were.
And then we have Antonio Banderas as Armand. I don't have much on him, but
it was so weird seeing him like so pale in this.
I almost didn't recognize him. I didn't know he was in this film either. But it makes sense for the time. Like, this was star-studded. So they end up making a like a Spanish dubbing of this film. He
does
the
his
only
own-
casting.
yeah.
Yeah. So he went on to do that. We have Stephen Rea as Santiago, who
Disgusting.
yucky.
Yeah.
He
Hate.
actually studied French comedy and pantomiming in order to prepare for this role, which
Love.
yes. And so in the scene in which he dances up the tunnel and dances around, it was actually inspired by Fred Astaire's famous scene from the 1951 film Royal Wedding.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, which I gotta revisit that film. I remember watching that as a kid with my mom.
That's so cool.
Okay, it was Pitts. Sorry, I just got to my note, my extra casting notes. It was Pitts. He did not use deodorant, so Tom Cruise also didn't like. It was just like Brad Pitt was just
one of the only things I've ever agreed with Tom Cruise on.
Seems stinky.
He does seem stinky, doesn't he? He gives stinky man.
He gives like cologne and BO.
Yeah, he gives like instead of
Sorry,
cleaning
Brad Pitt.
himself, he just sprays a little more cologne.
I think he has no self-awareness of what he smells like. That's my read for the day. I don't think he knows.
I feel like he's one of those guys who knows and thinks that women
it's
find
hot.
it hot. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, that might be it.
I feel like he's like, oh, it's pheromones. And it's like, no, it's just disgusting.
So, Pitts. Oops, I left my phone on my thing. So, moving on to the scripts.
Moving on from the pits.
Yeah, moving on from the pits to the scripts. So, the elements that... I probably should have put this up there, but the elements that Anne Rice kind of left out and Neil wanted to add back in. So, Neil said, quote, some of the eroticism had gone missing. And I
find that eroticism, baby.
So he said the wonderful issue of Claudia as a child, that was left out too. The attempt of these two men who were in this eternal relationship to construct a family for themselves, that was left out. I think like the main beats he's talking about here, not like fully left out. And I suppose the broader sense of making a vampire movie into a substantial epic, introducing elements that normally you don't see in these kind of movies. And at the time, the transition from New Orleans right up to the present day, basically, I wanted to make it more faithful to Anne's book.
That's
so I think she overthought it and was like, I'm going to make a Hollywood film. And I love that Neil just kept going, I want to make your book.
What's
like,
good
that's
in
what
it
I want to do. That's what people love. Like, why I don't want to do anything different. So
people read Anne Rice for the spice.
Yeah,
that's
and
the point.
Spice.
Yeah.
So production, you kind of noted this: San Francisco, New Orleans, London, Paris. God, I feel like that's a song. Neil
Somebody put a beat under this.
Neil said they actually had to shield themselves off from the paparazzi and any glimpses of the makeup and the sets they were shooting. They wanted things to remain a secret. It was also said that Tom Cruise was the one who wanted the private set, so they actually had tunnels built to escort the actors to and from set.
Okay, no wonder it cost $60 million. That's
they were building tunnels
just to keep Tom comfortable.
I mean, they could have been like tent tunnels. You know what I mean? Too.
Okay, still.
My brain thinks underground tunnels.
Yeah. Same. That's immediately where I was picturing like catacombs dug underneath the streets of
Paris. They used to use the Paris catacombs, actually.
There you go.
That'd be so sick to be working on a vampire film. So, but Neil had a really, again, I don't know this man. And like I don't know him from any other films, any other quotes, but he seems really cool. He said to that quote, "It was like we were making the movie like vampires in a strange way. It helped me in the process. It concentrated my mind, and I'm not sure how it helped the actors, but it made the production rather special."
Oh, I bet.
So I think that's really.
Anytime particularly if you're shooting at odd times of night too, it creates a weird kind of bonding.
Yeah. It just feels special. So when they shot in New Orleans, many of the buildings and the streetlights were actually darkened for filming, and the city and the companies agreed to do that. So I love that everyone was excited for this production to be there. The scenes set on the riverfront of New Orleans included a famous spot called Chat Noir, which we see right in the beginning. It was actually replicated, and they filmed it downriver from the actual French Quarter. And that entire set was built from an old section of the Jackson Barracks, which is a National Guard post. I'm not sure if it's still like what it looks like now, but the sets were amazing on this in very different ways from yours, but amazing. They obviously tore everything down after, so you can't go see them still. I wish they were still up. They also shot the river scenes and made it a little bit less recognizable by removing modern elements like the Great New Orleans Bridge, radio towers, and replacing them with like 18th century stuff with the digital effects that we have. And also there were two little sailing vessels out there. I don't know which ones they were because I don't know anything about ships, but they were called Alexandria and Gazella, and I just love those names.
Love that.
So shout out, girls.
Get it, Gazella. What a great
Gazella's
name.
a really great. That feels very like vampiric.
It
too.
does. Yeah.
We also have. Oh my god, I have so many notes to get through. We also have the estate of Louis and the characters in the beginning of the film. That was a practical location. So it was the Oak Valley plantation located in the Mississippi River, near New Orleans. And if you ever visit the plantation, doesn't sound like a fun time to me. The guest book is on display still and has the signatures of Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise in it.
That's pretty cool.
So that's kind of fun. Here is where we get into the fun things that I've been excited about. So it's the makeups and special effects tids that I have. So starting off strong, all the actors playing vampires were required to hang upside down for 30 minutes at the time of makeup to give their the look that we see in the film. So by being upside down, it would force all the blood to rush their heads, and so that the makeup artist could see their veins and they could trace over them to kind of give that translucent vampire. But can you imagine going to set and be like, well, it's 6 a.m. and I'm going to hang upside down for 30 minutes?
Half an hour.
Yeah.
Like
I would actually fucking die.
Yeah, I can barely, like, even just like, you know.
I'd pass out. They'd have to like push me back
5 minutes and I'm out. Like,
also like, I don't think I could eat beforehand.
Yeah.
But then if I didn't eat beforehand, you know what I mean?
Pass
Like,
out
I
even
feel
harder.
Like, I don't know what I would have to do.
Yeah. Nightmare.
Yeah. So
I feel like my head would explode from all the blood rushing to it.
Yeah, 30 minutes is a wild time. Can you imagine? Part of me thinks, like, imagine walking into the trailers and it's just like little, like, they're just in their little blankets, like little
bats.
vampire
Yes,
bats.
that's exactly what I was picturing.
So again, remember, they had to do that every single day that they shot.
Wild.
So, yeah. They also obviously had casts of their teeth done by making their fangs. And they sculpted them really, like, it was noted that they did them very thin and all the way up the gums so that they weren't
Look
like
natural.
these bulging, which they look really good. And like the fact that the actors can talk in them and you're almost not distracted by them.
They're subtle things.
They're subtle things. Yeah. I was talking about wanting to get my little ones a little bit extra because I have pointy little things. I just want a little bit longer. I might do that now that I'm in my vampire phase. So
I knew this was gonna happen.
God damn it. Everyone shut up. They obviously did colored contacts. They did colored contacts that would accentuate the actor's eyes, not fully changing them. Although they do have some that were like black or gold, but I just love that they, like, I would just have really intense green ones, you know? So they did that. They also had things like, which I love, bladders, which were used to pulsate the veins. So they had little, not bladders like in our bodies, guys, special effects bladders, which I went down a wormhole of like where those, like, I was going to add notes of like where those came from and stuff.
Interesting.
It's Stan Winston Studios, man. They have all this information and stories and blogs and lore.
That's so cool.
So they had for the pulsating veins, which they have some videos on YouTube. They're so realistic looking. It's you almost don't believe that it's not happening.
Like the actual neck. Yeah.
So for some of the more noticeable transformations, like Lestat's final age look, he had this incredible cast of his face made, which Siena, again, there's videos on everything. He later wore just like, I think cheek and brow prosthetics for his face, but he had a whole cast of his face done, like a second skin. And in that scene, they also had to create a life-size Lestat puppet, which is wild to see made. They kind of like took mannequin parts and foam and duct tape and kind of created this shell of his body. And then it was animatronic, so they had it kind of writhing on the ground. So they had the head, the neck, the arms, and the fingers were hydraulics. And he had 4 different faces that they would use. And then they basically shot that scene. So they had him up on the puppet on a table. They shot that scene 14 times for each face.
Whoa.
And then sent that to, what was it, Digital Domain, who then blended in post to kind of create this very weird effect that we see in that like 12-second scene. But it's kind of, I love that they didn't go one way or the other way. They kind of did this really cool blending.
Both practical and digital.
And that's what gives it like, it's not like, it hasn't aged well, but it also like hasn't aged
badly.
poorly.
Yeah.
I think it gives it this very weird,
It's uncanny
kind of feel to it. So
which feels very suited to what it's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So they also just the process of all the silicone animatronic puppets they made for like the theater vampire scene where everything's burning. I love the ones that go flying across the fucking room.
Yes.
Yeah, it just watching this actually reminded me a lot of What We Do in the Shadows, which I know me and Trav were talking about, like all the different vampires those different characters were based on. But man, there were some points like the initial fight too after Louis eats the poodles in the beginning, and that fight where they fly. I love it.
It's so What We Do in the Shadows,
so funny.
which I have to admit, I finally started watching because like half our TikTok feed was What We Do in the Shadows like a couple weeks ago, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch. And so I've binged
why I say
all
I'm
of
not into
it.
vampires, but I'm obsessed with Buffy. I'm obsessed with What We Do in the Shadows. I
just waiting for the right thing to click it, and I think it was this pairing.
I don't know why. I feel like I've just like maybe I've been lying to myself.
We're bringing Al out of the vampire closet,
just out of the coffin.
Out of the coffin.
There was a moment. Okay, sorry, we were sidelining so much in this. There was a moment where I would fall asleep with my arms crossed over my chest. I had like a summer where I did that. Everyone's
Did you have to like train yourself to do this?
I had to train myself not to.
Oh my god!
It was a very weird summer. We have some other fun little tids here. So the one where Lestat picks up the live rat, bites its neck, and then like pours the blood.
Amazing. The way he like juices it.
So funny. I'm like, what is with rats and vampires? Yeah. I don't know that lore. So they had a real trained rat for the shots where it ran across the floor. But when Tom Cruise as Lestat like picks up the rat, the creature effect design, the Stan Winston Studios, they created like a little moving puppet that was controlled via cables to make it appear wiggling. And the effect was achieved by taking advantage of his like billowy shirt that Tom Cruise was wearing. So they would run like the cables up his shirt. They call them like similar to bicycle cables is what they use. And then a thin like blood delivery tube, love that, along his inner arm. So it kind of allowed it to seem like he picked up this rat, raised it to his mouth, and it was like this fairly seamless thing to shoot. And then, so I thought that was kind of fun. I noted that one, so it was fun watching that. It's so seamless, you don't even really like think about it. We have... What are we talking about here? Rob Legato. He was the one who set up Digital Domain, actually, with James Cameron. They were the one that started that. And it was their digital effects supervisor on this film and second unit director for certain scenes. So Rob Legato kind of was their main guy for this. Neil said that one of the reasons so obviously you can kind of tell when there's a lot of digital things in this one. Yours is bonkers with stuff I can't wait to see, but things like Claudia's hair, it was a huge technical challenge for them at the time, making her teeth grow in as a vampire. So he said that it was like really fun to have this combination of these real physical prosthetics and what he called quote really discreet digital enhancements of things, which love that he wanted to keep it minimum. He said their goal was to blend this so you kind of couldn't tell what was what. So again, I think I love that for a film where they have the ability to use the things that they could and use these new technological advances, he really kept it at a minimum. Which I think is really, they got lucky with Stan Winston Studios, man.
Yeah.
I don't think they realized.
They found the exact right people.
And they
for
used
the job.
digital too, so I'm wondering if they had any sort of impact on like how to blend it. You know what I mean? Where they're like, we can do this, but in post you can blend it with this. Because like think of how timeless Jurassic Park still looks.
Yeah, well, and that's like when effects work their best, it's when the two teams are really in concert and thinking of each other.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
I do think this one holds up, man. I kind of have gotten into like the camp of the vampires and the vampire look. Camp. Sorry. The end. We're getting our puns back, baby. I feel like we took a break.
New year, new puns.
Yeah. So when Neil was actually asked in an interview about how he avoided the quote teeth acting and how he was able to get these authentic performances, he replied, which I think half of it had to do with the teeth were like allowed the actors to act. He said that Stan Winston worked on it together. He said, quote, Stan did an enormous amount of research and sketched where the teeth should be, and he didn't want Tom Cruise to make always be using the teeth. So that's how he invented that little like Tom Thumb finger pricker. the ring. I don't know what to call it. His extra nail, his coke thumbnail.
Yeah.
He said he said that in other vampire films that when the vampires would use their teeth, it was very demonic but slightly comical at the same time, which I think is really hard to not be funny with vampires.
Yeah.
And that giving Lestat this other way to extract blood kind of gave the film this different reality that he kind of liked, which I think it's genius. And in the points where he did use it, it was moments where, you know, I feel like if you're not like kissing up on someone's neck or being sexual in that way, just like I don't want to say this, like throat play, you don't have to like put your mouth, you know what I mean? And then go,
no, it's true.
I'm a vampire. It's like, then you can just keep that action.
It's very like,
it doesn't take you out of it.
But it's also just very gay. Yeah. Like the idea of killing somebody with your jewelry is very gay.
I know. I think it adds that element of like, that's so true. It's just killing with jewelry.
Yeah.
Slay.
Yes, absolutely. Literally
I say that
slay.
Ironically. And so Neil's response to like that aspect of the film possibly being like this turning to camp. He said, well, there are some quite camp moments in it, aren't there? Like when they eat the rats. That's the thing that I introduced in the script myself. Let's say there are enjoyable ironies through the whole thing, but camp, I didn't really want to go there. So, again, he talks a lot about wanting to make, oh my God, don't look, I have visuals coming up. He really tried to make a serious film, and I do feel like it felt more serious of a vampire film than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, I was expecting it to be campier, actually.
A little bit campy yours, though.
That's pretty campy.
This is my favorite part. So we're getting into Stan Winston's designs of the main two characters. So a lot of time went into these characters, particularly with leads. For Louis, it was designed by Mark Crash McCreary. So I'm going to call him Crash. It's fucking awesome. So he was tasked with drawing concepts of Louis. He was incorporating the facial features of Brad Pitt once he was cast. Before that, he was trying to like just draw everybody and be like, these are what these people could look like. So Crash said he remembers Brad Pitt actually coming into the studio and being super into the project and even posed for pictures for him to work off of. And Crash said they never get the chance to do that. So he was really excited he wanted to be involved. Crash said he drew about 3 or 4 drawings of Brad Pitt to figure out what the teeth would look like, how the veins would look, and how much they would have to kind of do to his face to make him look a little bit more vampiric. All those things helped them get the role and the look right. So for Lestat, it was artist Miles Teves, I think, Teves, who drew his character's concept, which was so much harder for them to do because, like I said, Tom Cruise was cast just weeks prior. So you got to think like you have 3 weeks to go. You're drawing all these different actors and you're like constantly having to change it.
Well, and who did you say it was going to be?
So one of the contenders for the role of Lestat, only to be rejected, obviously, thank fuck, is the wildest actor you can ever imagine, Al Pacino. As Lestat, to which artist Shane recalled saying, quote, I remember Neil Jordan coming into the shop one day and asking, what do you boys think of Al Pacino? And they said, for what? He's like, for Lestat. He said, we couldn't believe it. He was too old for the part, for one thing. In the book, Lestat was 24 years old French guy, but apparently Al Pacino really wanted to do it. So they drew pictures of Al Pacino as Lestat. And y'all, we will be posting this on social media. Is that the wildest thing you've ever seen?
I have to say, I feel like they intentionally did the worst job possible just to be like,
Al
guys,
Pacino.
I'm crying.
I chortled to myself when I read that fact.
Actually,
and then I
weeping.
saw the photos.
Oh no!
I love that Al Pacino really wanted it
so badly. He's like, I'll be a 24-year-old Frenchman.
Yeah, I can do that. No big deal. Throw a blonde wig on me. I'll be fine. Can you actually imagine? It would have been the biggest failure.
One of your French boys.
It would be like, what's that film?
Bonfire of the Vanities?
No, I don't know what that is. Yeah. Alternate universe, we would have had Tom Hanks. We would have had Al Pacino. We would have had Christina Ricci.
Christina Ricci would have been great. Al Pacino.
Yeah. So they thankfully said no. So again, going back to, I don't even know how I move on from that. So going back to how the fans were really upset with the fact that Tom Cruise has dark features, dark hair, dark eyes.
At least he's not fucking Al Pacino.
Truly. But we almost didn't get the blonde version of Lestat that we see. Initially, Tom Cruise resisted the idea of being transformed into this blue-eyed, blonde-haired, pale-faced vampire.
That's the whole point, dude.
He was like, I'll just come with my short hair. It'll be good. He's like, I'll scale a wall. I'm used to this, right? Going into action.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
So he was convinced that Lestat wouldn't lose any of his power and appeal if he were to play him with his natural features, which I get where he's coming from.
But he was wrong.
You're wrong. Yeah, you're severely wrong. So thankfully, the artists at the studio disagreed.
Good.
And they convinced him to let Stan Winston Studios at least do a makeup test on him with the blonde wigs and the blue contact lenses. So the artist we talked about earlier, John Rosengrant, said, quote, Tom was really putting himself out there and doing this part and making himself look so different. And that there was a lot of people lining up to see the movie fail, and especially to see Tom fail. There was a lot riding on this makeup being successful and looking right. And so we all worked together and focused on every detail to make makeup believable as possible. And again, I am attracted to him.
So they succeeded.
Did a good job, guys, and that's the goal. So for the final look of Lestat, the studio dyed Tom Cruise's eyebrows and hairline blonde, and then obviously fixed him with a wig created by Renat Luschner.
Ooh.
I hope I said that right. I told you, buckle up for the names. And after all that, they said, quote, with the wig and the character makeup and the blue contact lenses, Tom really looked like Lestat, and he liked how he looked.
That's huge.
And so Shane, said, I think our makeup really helped the fans accept Tom as Lestat. Bravo, team.
I think had they not done that, or had Tom not been willing to do that, this film would not have worked.
I don't know if because also I'm thinking like another studio, like they probably were so, not cocky, but I feel like they were confident in their abilities to do this. So they were like, just let us get to this point. I don't know if another studio would have maybe pushed up against someone like Tom Cruise.
Absolutely.
You know?
With this budget scale, like I can only imagine how much of the budget was his salary. And as we talked about on American Psycho, when a star has that big of a budget, they're kind of the director.
Yeah, they have a lot of power. So, rounding out towards the end, film's response. So it has a 7.5 out of 10 IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
Rotten Tomatoes, I was surprised by. It had 63 tomato meter, but popcorn meter, which fans is 86.
Yeah.
Neil said about the film's commercial success that if you make a film with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, it's naturally going to be a success. And the fact that he was even allowed to make it the particular way that he wanted, gay, and that it was such a commercial success, to him was, quote, really gratifying. So bless you, Neil Jordan, truly. God. And then remember our good old friend Anne Rice. She got shoved out of the screenwriting process, and she didn't want any part of the production film because of Tom Cruise. Apparently, Anne kept away fully from the production during this whole time. Thank fuck. Until the producers sent her a VHS copy, to which she said she was so impressed by Tom Cruise's performance that she wrote him a letter of apology and recorded a 2-minute video endorsing the film that was included as a pre-feature on the mid-90s VHS releases. Amazing. Wild. And after the film's release, Anne was so happy with this adaptation that she took out a 2-page ad in both Vanity Fair and the New York Times endorsing it as a masterpiece.
So expensive. I can't even imagine.
That bitch ate her own words. She also probably got so many royalties.
True. Like,
here's the thing. Her name still says that she wrote it.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm good.
Every time that makes somebody go to the movie, she makes more money.
Yeah. We, in very Tom Cruise, I don't think it was the jumping on the couch one, but Tom Cruise went on Oprah Winfrey to promote the film, where an audience member drew laughter. I don't know why I didn't rewrite that. He laughed when he brought up the homoerotic undertones of the story. And when asked about this, Neil actually responded with a great answer saying, quote, I just wanted to be accurate to Anne's book. Once
Which
Louis,
is gay. gay.
Which is so gay.
Yeah.
Which again, I love that he was like, I took these big actors
and made them gay.
And like, I'm glad it did well. So
do you watch Arrested Development?
You ask me this every time.
It reminds me of that moment in Arrested Development where Tony Wonder does a trick and he's like, and now everybody's gay.
Oh, yeah. Neil, that's Neil.
Yeah, now everybody's gay.
So Neil was like, I'm going to make everybody gay. Mm-hmm. He said once Louis turned into a vampire, he stuck with his companion who is half lover, half manipulator, and any of the sexual undertones.
All been there, right?
Yeah. Oh, truly. Truly. Siena, shut up. Stop. This isn't therapy.
Too real.
And any of the sexual undertones that are there are expressed through blood and through their desire for blood.
We've all been there, right?
So, truly. So I would say that there is exactly the amount of eroticism, homoeroticism, and otherwise that was already there in Anne's novel. So I love that he's just like, bro, I'm just doing the source material. And like, if you have a problem with it, like, yeah, I don't know, turn it off. He also goes to talk about that his draft of the script that he had reintroduced a lot of those elements back in there, and like the representation of the tragedy of vampirism. He said, quote, once you embrace this thing, you're outside sexuality. You're outside being able to have a child even. That's why Lestat makes Claudia, so Louis will not leave him. I thought it was the perfect metaphor for the whole thing. And then I don't know if I want to lead with this last thing. Do I want to do this? Because this came after. Maybe I'll save this as a little... You might have this. So this film actually surpassed Bram Stoker's Dracula as the highest grossing vampire film and held the record for a decade until it was surpassed by 2004.
Twilight.
No, 2004 is Van Helsing and then probably Twilight. I'm not saying Twilight.
Yep.
But Interview with a Vampire still remains the highest grossing R-rated vampire film.
Damn.
So, and boom. Got there, guys.
A masterpiece. What are you rating it?
A 10 across the board.
Yeah.
I am so obsessed with Lestat. I'm probably going to go down such a wormhole of just... I mean, I'm going to get TikTok edits of this man.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
waiting.
of course you are.
What songs are they going to do? All of them. I'm going to save all of them before TikTok is banned. Hopefully not, but you know. You guys might know. The future's coming.
There you
where
go.
You are. So, yeah, holy fucking shit. I truly thought I was going to enjoy both these films. I did not expect this film to do this to me.
Are you going to read the books now?
Probably not. I'm working through some really big book series right now. Like each book is like 800 pages. So like I'll get through those first. I don't know. Probably not. Probably watch this film a lot though. So, you know.
I had a feeling this was going to be an Al Comfort
would
film
you
now.
Rate it? Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah, because you hadn't seen this either.
No, I hadn't. Like a 4.5, which I would say this. I would rate this and really like Bram Stoker's Dracula about the same. Actually, I think they're really like on the same level and doing similar things, and you can't have one without the other. I feel like these just like they're so in conversation.
Yeah.
They're
They're a fun double feature. So. I'm gonna go cool off a little bit, guys.
Good luck with that. It's not gonna work.
We'll be right back.
You know how much you love stories of horror and gore. Meet our sponsor, Beasley Books, the independent bookstore owned by author George R.R. Martin in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Beasley specializes in autographed titles, rare editions, and speculative fiction, which includes sci-fi, fantasy, and of course, horror. You can find many authors whose adaptations we've covered at Beasley, including Stephen King, Clive Barker, and more, alongside the likes of Nick Cutter, Shirley Jackson, and Anne Rice. Visit the Santa Fe storefront Wednesday through Sunday at 418 Montezuma. Or shop online anytime. I don't know why I'm Irish now, but you can find them at BeasleyBooks.com or on Instagram at BeasleyBooks418. And make sure you use code SPLICE10 to save 10% when you shop online. SPLICE10 to save 10% when you shop online. Bye.
And we're back. Oh my god, I have so much to talk about for this film. I'm going to try to talk as fast as I possibly can while still being somewhat understandable.
Yeah.
So I told you I have a second tid.
Sorry, stop.
What?
How's Siena sound?
Sounding like sounds?
Sounding great.
Love that.
Looking like looks.
Looking like looks,
Oh,
sounding
God.
like
Thanks,
sounds,
guys.
looking like looks. Love to hear that.
Yeah, great confidence.
Perfect. And we're back
back.
for the second time. We're trying again. We
Yep.
had some
Round two.
technical difficulties with my microphone. If it starts slumping over the course of the episode, don't judge me. I
Yeah.
don't have control
We don't
over
have
it.
control.
Yeah. One day they'll invent a drug for that. This day's not that day. Sorry, guys. Let me lead you in with my second tit that I saved for you.
Yeah. Very good,
So
too.
this, I just kind of like combined a bunch of mini tids because there were a whole bunch of facts that I found about voice performances and voice acting for Dracula.
That makes sense.
And but none of them were like long enough for like a proper tid. So it was
Okay.
like just a
Swoop
like
them
a
all together.
snowball of sound tids.
Yeah.
Voice tids. So the incredible avant-garde vocalist Diamanda Galas is the one who does the shrieks for the Vampire Brides. She's like known as she does a lot of work with like John Zorn and like she's very in the like experimental music scene.
Got it.
So they hired like a professional avant-garde
Yeah.
singer to do those screams.
Sick.
Gary Oldman trained with a vocal coach to lower his voice a full octave for this
Whoa.
role so that he has that very kind of seductive vampire sound to him. And the scream when Dracula stabs the cross at the beginning, the stab that turns him into a vampire, actually provided by Lux Interior of the Cramps. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they got the lead singer of the Cramps to come do the scream for them.
I love
which
them.
I thought you'd like
I had
that.
a rockabilly phase. It was very expensive to upkeep. It's that the wardrobe is not. If you want to
it's
look
not
the
cheap,
part,
yeah.
which
If
I'm
you
going
want
to
to
be
do it right.
people kind of make you feel like you're not. Even if you listen to the music, they like to make you. Hey, you don't feel that welcomed if you don't dress, but that shit's expensive.
It's expensive.
No way.
I thought you'd like that.
That's sick.
Which I've seen. It's likely that Sofia Coppola is the one who suggested that to him because she was a fan. So
I love Sofia Coppola.
Yep, thought you'd enjoy that. All right, so Bram Stoker's Dracula, 1992, directed by Francis Ford Coppola of Megalopolis, The Godfather, Apocalypse Now. Of course, not known as a horror director,
No.
despite all of the horror in Apocalypse Now, which I think makes this choice all the more interesting. And of course, it's pretty famously the movie that was responsible for saving him from bankruptcy. Yeah, he was like $20-something million in debt at the time of making this movie.
To be rich.
It's wild.
And be $20 million in
Yeah.
debt is a wild
To be
concept.
$20 million in debt and be like, let me make a $40 million movie to try and get back out of the debt.
Dracula in the most bonkers.
Yeah.
I don't know. This
And
wouldn't have been the
it
one.
works.
And it works. Yeah,
And
that's
it
true.
works. Yeah, this
That's
is
a crazy idea.
This is why American Zoetrope still exists. Is this in his vineyard, but mainly Dracula.
Wild.
Yeah. So thank God for that.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess depending on your feelings on Megalopolis, thank God for that.
Yeah.
Or curses to that. Written by James V. Hart, who also wrote such masterpieces as The Muppets Treasure Island and Hook. So that's the brain behind the genius.
Genius brain.
Truly.
Oh my God, imagine if this movie was made with Muppets.
I know. A Muppets Dracula?
Yeah,
I would
and
watch
just
it.
Gary Oldman was the human the whole time.
Oh my God.
Anyways, moving on.
Wait, so Dracula's the only human in that
I don't know.
version?
Who would you be the human? Or who would you pick? Lucy.
True. Honestly, yeah, it would be Lucy. Oh, so hot.
R.I.P.
Okay. Everybody's so hot.
Yeah, that's a hot movie.
Okay, obviously, based on the 1897 novel Dracula, which many people think was the first vampire novel, was not the first vampire novel because the first vampire novel is gay, obviously.
You said Dracula's not that gay.
Yeah. First vampire novel is the lesbian vampire novel Carmilla, 25 years older than Drac. And before that, John Polidori published The Vampire, which is the first published vampire story. It's a short story from 1819, and I bring it up because it was part of the same writing contest that led to Mary Shelley writing Frankenstein.
Ugh.
So,
Fucking love that.
mhm.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Cinematographer was Michael Ballhaus, who had one hell of a career. This man shot everything from Goodfellas to Gangs of New York to Madonna music videos to The Bitter Tears of Peter von Kant. So he did like MTV to German art house. He did everything.
Wild.
Everything.
A lot of the directors we cover actually weirdly done Madonna music videos.
Interesting.
I feel like we've had like at least like 3. I think one of my guys in the recent like did a Madonna.
I think you're
music
right.
video. Yeah.
Yeah. So
But anyways, moving on.
Madonna and
Thanks,
horror,
Madonna.
man. Yeah, truly. So we have Gary Oldman as Dracula / Vlad the Impaler. Obviously, also in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. He's Sirius Black in Harry Potter. He's Stansfield in Leon the Professional. Winona Ryder as Mina, our queen. Obviously,
yeah, truly.
she's
in everything.
truly,
Great.
yeah. She's in Beetlejuice. She's in Stranger Things, Black Swan, Girl Interrupted, Little Women, Heathers, one of my favorite movies of all time.
So good.
She's a Veronica.
She's a Veronica.
She's a Veronica. I feel like I personally want to propose that I think she was a lot of queer girls by Awakening.
Oh my God, yeah.
Do you agree with this?
Absolutely.
'Cause
Absolutely. If I would have saw this, again, I would have put
Yeah.
this in the sexual awakening bucket
This is
as well
in
if I would have seen
the
this.
mummy camp of movies where just
Yes.
everybody is so hot that
Oh,
like
yeah.
if you are bi or pan, you're just
like,
everybody.
which way do I go?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
What way do I go?
Just
yeah, no. Yeah, slurp it.
slurp it up. Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yep.
She's
Just-
just stunning in this.
Yeah.
In a way that like I feel like she's always done up a little bit softer. She felt a little bit harsher in her like even just her makeup look. So
Yeah.
it was kind of cool to see her in a role that I would have not. This feels so again in the same way Tom Cruise. It just feels so different from what
Yeah.
they've done. So
It's
Yeah.
and I have obviously a ton of notes on costuming for this one, but we have Anthony Hopkins as Professor Von Helsing. Of course, he's Hannibal Lecter. He's Nixon and Nixon. He's Hitch and Hitchcock. Lots of title characters for
my
Hopkins.
God. So they
Yeah, we have our dear beloved Keanu Reeves as the much maligned Jonathan Harker.
yeah, bless that baby angel.
He tried
God
so
love him.
hard.
Satan love him.
Obviously, he's in John Wick, Point Break, The Matrix, Speed, but at this point, he's already done Shakespeare in My Own Private Idaho, which I love and think is probably a helpful entry point to understanding why this performance happened the way it did.
Yeah.
Because he really tried.
I can tell.
This was not a case of the actor not committing. This was a case of the actor overcommitting.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please let's.
We also have Richard E. Grant as Jack Seward, who was in Saltburn. He's the dad from Saltburn.
Yeah,
which
yeah. He was in a trailer I just watched, and then we were just talking about how he's in. I'm trying to find my copy of Spice World. He's in Spice World.
Wild. Had no idea.
He's had a full ass fucking career, man.
He's in Gosford Park too. We have Carrie Elwes as Arthur Holmwood, also in Saw. He's in Robin Hood Men in Tights, and he's in The Princess Bride. Not that Al would know anything about that.
Guys.
We have fucking Tom Waits as Renfield, giving the most performance. The most
performance of this goddamn. I needed a whole film on him.
That's just him.
I wish every character honestly went the direction he went.
Went as hard as Renfield
Kinda.
does. Yeah, he's playing it like it's an opera, and it is an opera.
Yeah.
Which I think is that to me is the big problem with Keanu Reeves is he's extremely mannered and small, and he's in a big movie. And I almost feel like if he had let himself be bigger and less controlled, the fact that he can't get the accent would be more forgivable. I think it's the fact that he's so tight that is so much of the problem.
Yeah.
But we'll talk more about that. There's plenty to talk about.
I was like, I have like watch notes, but I feel like there's gonna be a time and a
there's
place
a time and
for
place
these
for
ones.
for
I couldn't contain
the Keanu
myself
accent. Yeah. Of course, one of Dracula's wives is also played by fucking babe to end all babes, Monica Bellucci, which like,
I didn't know. I didn't recognize.
This was one of her
couldn't put a name.
first English language performances. Before that, most of her movies were from Italy. Obviously, also she reunites with Winona Ryder in Beetlejuice. So just a little full circle moment there. She's Persephone in the Matrix franchise. She's Milena in Milena. So, background.
Yeah.
This story begins with Winona Ryder, which I love.
That's
also,
cool.
Script was already written.
Okay.
She gets her hands on it. I couldn't find out how the script got sent to her, but she takes it to Coppola to show him at a meeting that's
casual.
kind of awkward because she had just dropped out about 6 months prior to this. She dropped out of The Godfather 3.
Oh.
And so she's having this meeting with him to essentially reconcile for
Here I brought you
fucking
a
him
script.
over because it seriously delayed production on The Godfather 3 and like cost a bunch of money. And obviously he's
She
$20
put him in
million
debt, she'll
in
get him
debt.
out.
Yeah, exactly. So she goes to have this meeting with him to kind of smooth things over. And at the end of the meeting, as she's leaving, she hands him the script and she's like, look, I just read this. I think it's pretty interesting. I want to hand this off to you. And she thinks Coppola doesn't like her at this point because she's like, you know,
yeah, and she's like young in Hollywood too, so I'm sure that's like such a scary place to
it's really
to
scary.
live.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about Francis Ford Coppola, director of Apocalypse Now and The Godfather, and you just walked away from The Godfather.
And if he turns you, I feel like he could just put a stank on your whole career.
Yeah, I feel like if Coppola
that's
decides
scary.
you're done.
Yeah, at that point, absolutely.
And she's already a big fan of the source material. She loves the novel.
Of course she does.
Why? Quote, Mina, like many women of the late 1800s, has a lot of repressed sexuality. Everything about women in that era, the way those corsets forced them to move, was indicative of repression. To express passion was freakish. Love her.
Yeah.
I love that that's her door into the adaptation because that's a lot of how this adaptation feels. Is very much about the repressed sexuality bursting out the seams.
Totally.
Bursting out the necks.
Bursting out the veins.
Bursting out the veins. But she doesn't think Coppola's going to be interested. So here's her quote. I never really thought he would read it. He was so consumed with Godfather 3. As I was leaving, I said, if you have a chance, read the script. He glanced down at it politely, but when he saw the word Dracula, his eyes lit up. It was one of his favorite stories from camp. Which, let me just say, makes me think we all need to read Dracula at Splice and Splatter summer camp when that happens.
Oh my god, yeah, we need to do a camp. Oh my god, that's so funny. Is she like excited the child with it?
Yes. So I got excited about that story. Was like, do we have any of the Coppola side of this story? We do.
Ooh, okay.
So I got a Coppola summer camp story, and here's a quote from him. He
from
said,
childhood.
From
got
childhood,
little Coppola to
from
say.
baby Francis, Franquito. He says, I was a drama camp counselor, and my girlfriend was a drama counselor for the affiliated camp nearby. What nerds.
Yeah, nerd.
I had a lot of fun with these 9-year-old boys, but one of my motivations was to get them to go to sleep so I could visit my girlfriend. So I read them the entire Dracula.
That's really funny.
Which, like, again, makes total sense for the story that this was he read the entirety of Dracula so that he could fuck.
Yeah. He could boink his girlfriend.
Yeah. And that is so the energy that carries through
so
the entire adaptation. Yep. So put a pin in that.
Talk about emotions and like heightened sexual feelings at that time too. So
truly.
It's so funny.
So this is a pretty faithful adaptation. I did want to shout out the whole reincarnation framing where Mina was Elisabetta is not in the original novel. That is something that is added in for this.
Got it.
Which I think works really well, particularly because, again, like in yours, frame stories are a very big thing in Gothic literature, in Gothic horror. So it fits the vibe, I think.
Also, there's so many other things going on that you might as well just throw in.
Truly. Truly. So, let's see. Before going into production, Coppola, in typical Coppola fashion, decides that he's going to do the most and hires a team of animators, including Michael Mignola, who goes on to create Hellboy, to storyboard for him. And he combines these storyboards with scenes that he rips from Jean Cocteau's Beauty and the Beast.
Hey, shout out Jean Cocteau Cinema.
I literally wrote Ayo in my notes.
Ayo.
And Gustav Klimt paintings. So he combines these three things to make what sounds to me like one of the world's wildest animatics.
Like a fever dream.
Yes. And uses that to kind of help put the project together, package it. Gary Oldman basically says, I took this part to be able to say, I've crossed oceans of time to find you. He was like, I would take this on this line alone. Like, obviously, it's a great line. Obviously, it's a great movie. It's great to get the opportunity to work with Francis Ford Coppola. But even if nothing else, just to say that line alone, I'm in.
Oh my God, I love that so much.
Christian Slater turned down the Keanu Reeves role and lived to regret it.
Well, oh my God, that's wild.
He would have done so much better.
Yeah,
done so
he would have been so Christian Slatery about
He
it.
would have
though,
been very
too.
Christian Slater about it, but I feel like he knew how to loosen up a little
Then
bit.
I wonder. Oh my god, that's just such a wild timeline. Thinking then he took
then
the role.
he probably
for,
couldn't have done Interview with the
He
Vampire.
probably wouldn't have. Yeah, they would have been like, "You're good."
Yeah, too much vampire.
Yeah, 2 years ago.
So, well, and you want to know why he turned it down?
Yeah.
He was basically like, he said that at the time his attitude was mainly like, if I'm not going to be Dracula, then what's the point? He thought that
Okay.
the role was too small, which he now looks back on and is like, I was a snot-nosed kid. I should have taken it.
He matured in 2 years.
Yep,
Love that.
yep. So, how
Humbled.
did we get Keanu? What happened there?
Little baby Keanu.
I know.
A
So the thinking
wild
was,
choice.
this isn't a super meaty part. There's not actually a lot going on with
Yeah, he's like a
Harker.
realtor.
He's a realtor. He's like a sweet boy next door, basically. And so the goal was to find someone who was like a total heartthrob above all else.
Yeah.
They were casting to get like teen girls in the door, was their thinking. And Coppola knows that you all hate the performance. Coppola is very aware of this, but he just adores Keanu Reeves as a
But we all
person so
do.
much.
Yeah.
And so he's given so many interviews looking back on it. Here's one from 2015 where he says, quote, we know that it was tough for him to affect an English accent. He tried so hard. That was the problem, actually. He wanted to do it perfectly, and in trying to do it perfectly, it came off as stilted. I tried to get him to relax with it and to not do it so fastidiously, so maybe I wasn't as critical of him, but that's because I like him personally so much. To this day, he's just a prince in my eyes.
Oh, he's a prince in all of our eyes.
He's a prince in all of our
America's
eyes.
Prince.
But I just want to say,
Oh, Prince of
I
Darkness.
think that Coppola did his friend dirty here because it is your job as a director. If
he
you
didn't
see-
want to hurt his feelings.
Yeah, and at that
Like,
point,
bro.
what you have to do is say, okay, I've cast this guy. This guy cannot do this accent.
Don't set him up for failure.
I need to change the character at that point.
Yeah. It's like
Decide
something
this
needs
is
to
an
happen.
American.
Yeah.
Like, do something so that
you
that
imagine?
your refusal to hurt your friend's feelings is not getting in the way of the role.
Yeah.
Like,
'cause-
if he can't do that, do what you need to do as a director to enable your actors to succeed, because
Yeah.
otherwise it's not on Keanu, I think,
Oh,
for
no,
giving
no,
a
no.
bad performance. It's on the director for not directing him.
can you imagine like hearing no notes, right? No
Right.
notes. Perfect. And then years later there's interviews like that where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, like it wasn't great. It's like,
But I just loved him so
bro,
much. Like, no,
could
that's
you
your
fucking
job.
just let me know that
Tell
at the time? I
me.
would be
Yeah.
livid.
Yeah.
I'd be so fucking embarrassed. And
Mhm. Yeah.
Like what a bad director.
I agree.
Yeah,
Well, and it's
that's
also,
wild.
I have my
Let-
thoughts on what was happening because Keanu has talked since then about the fact that he's also embarrassed by this performance and he
Yeah.
feels like he was just exhausted at the time because he'd
Oh.
done so many roles in a row.
Mhm.
He was like, I probably should have taken some time off and I didn't, and I just like
Well, he's
didn't
getting
have
no
anything else
direction,
to
so
give.
he's just like cruising.
But I also want to point out here, and like, I haven't seen any interviews about this, but it's impossible for me not to think about it. Again, I just brought up My Own Private Idaho. He had just worked with River Phoenix on this incredibly emotional part that came out in 91. This is filming in and released in 92. River dies on October 31st, 93. At the time this is happening, he is watching this best friend that he's
Yeah.
just made go on this downward spiral that leads to his death less than a year later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A lot of things.
there's a lot of things going on in his life that we may not ever know about.
You're just like justice for Keanu.
Justice for Keanu. I love
I don't think
him.
anyone is mad at him for this role because it's so Keanu Reeves that like I think we all
yeah.
just like even me who hasn't seen a ton of Keanu stuff, I just accept it and I
It's
like
just
him
him.
and I know
Yeah.
he's very Keanu about the way he
There's-
acts anyway.
There's certain things that he can do and certain things that he
He
can't.
gives- like he's very much like Nicolas Cage too, right? Like Nicolas Cage is always
Mhm.
Nicolas Cage and like that's why people like him.
Right.
So I feel like watching stuff like this, I just feel like no one's gonna have a
Yes.
problem with it because he's just Keanu Reeves.
Right.
I have more of a
And-
problem with his hair changing than anything.
The
if I'm
hair was
honest.
not great
It also
for
went like
him.
white for like one scene and then went back to gray.
Yeah.
And I was very confused.
Which is weird because the rest of the wigs and the hair is so well done, and it feels like on Harker they just
put
kind of
dust.
like, eh.
I actually thought he just had dusty hair.
It just looks like talcum powder, which
Yeah,
is probably
I
what
thought
it
someone
is.
just went like
but
on like an old candle and like
Mhm.
that was supposed to be the gag.
not good.
Not good.
Not good. However, I do have a little hint as to perhaps why Coppola A loved Keanu so much and B didn't tell him.
Gay.
Reeves said on an episode of the podcast Inside You that he gifted Coppola an eighth of shrooms during the shoot. So
honestly, they should have given him a little bit more.
Yes.
I kind of wanted more.
It should have been more shroomy. Yeah.
You know, I wanted more
The-
Tom Waits energy from the film.
Mhm.
Because when they leaned into that,
Those
it
were
was
the best moments.
brilliant. I wanted more tilted angles. And more, I just wanted it
Weirder. Yeah. Oh, and we're going to talk about
Okay.
whose artistic influence. Because it's,
Oh.
I think, two people besides Coppola are really responsible for this film.
Cool. Okay.
And it's Roman and it's Eiko, the costume designer, who we'll talk more about. But
yeah.
we'll get there.
Yeah, we love
We're
you.
getting
Yeah.
there. You've likely heard, / I hinted at earlier in the episode, or was this on our break? I can't remember. Winona and Gary did not get along on set.
Yes. Yeah.
Coppola has largely played this off as totally mystifying and like he has no idea what was going on.
Hmm.
Winona herself has been pretty open about why.
Oh, I love her for that. Yeah,
I love
she doesn't care.
her. He was too method. He was too method on set.
Oh.
He stayed in
Oh, I could see
character
that, giving her the
the
ick.
entire time, gave her the ick. She said in retrospect, quote, maybe it's his way of working, but I felt like there was a danger while filming.
Ooh.
And yeah, if you feel that,
yeah, we talked about that somewhere else too, where it's like there's method in a way that like if you're not feeling safe, it's like
it's
bro,
different. Yeah. That's, you have to do whatever you've got to do to like preserve your accent, but you have to make sure that your scene partners feel safe. End of the day.
Gary.
They're on much better terms
Gareth.
now, though. And so here's another quote from her looking back on it. He was going through kind of a hard time. He was going through a divorce. And I think I can say this because he's been pretty open about it. He's been sober for a long time now. He's raised 3 kids. He's a dream. He's a good friend of mine now. I don't want it to sound like more than it was, but when we were working together, I was young and, you know, there was some teen drama, which honestly, like, hats off to her for having such a mature
Yeah,
take
she's
on
always
it,
had like
looking
such an
back.
old soul of stuff too.
Mhm.
She yeah, but I can't imagine because yeah, she was like what, like 20,
Something like that. Yeah,
she
very
was
young. And I also, there is a story that I tried to do more research to find better confirmation of. It appears to source back to an extra who was on the set, who says that he thinks that the whole conflict
I
between,
love this extras like I got the tea.
which I framed this all to be like, I have no idea if this is true or
Yeah,
not.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
okay.
presenting a story.
Yeah, perfect.
This extra says that the reason that they like had this falling out because they started getting along well and then something happened and all of a sudden it like blew up. He says that apparently during the scene where Winona first sees Gary across the street as
Ooh,
Mina,
yeah.
when she like first sees him in London, she wasn't getting kind of the horrified reaction that Coppola wanted. And so one of the takes, she turns around and Gary Oldman's like holding a zucchini, doing like a
Oh,
the
like this
zucchini's my dick
Oh
type of
my
joke.
God.
And that she was just like so icked out by that they didn't get along the rest of the set, which I just think is hilarious. I have
Also,
no idea if it's
true or
true.
not. If true, wild.
Yeah.
But also if not true,
Wild.
the fuck
What a
was that
story to make
extra
up.
saying?
Yeah. Like it's so specific.
Yeah,
like that
it's
it was
very-
a zucchini
yeah.
in particular.
Yeah,
That just
that's so stupid.
it also feels like the sort of thing I could see Gary Oldman doing and being like,
He's like, well, I don't know,
this'll
this
make
is
her
funny."
laugh. Yeah. Yeah.
She's
and
like,
she's
"Please
like,
fucking
we're
don't."
enemies now.
So I have work to do.
Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah. So no idea if that's true or not, but
That's
wanted to bring the story in.
hilarious.
However, she and Keanu really bonded. They're friends to
Aw.
this day. And they also have an in-joke from this movie because the scene where they got married, she basically thinks that they might have actually done like they did the full marriage ceremony for the wide shot. And so they text each other
they're
husband and wife now. They call each other that.
Stop,
And they're,
that's cute.
I know. And she also, they gave like an interview together in like 2018, kind of looking back on, because they've
Yeah.
done multiple projects together. She rediscovered an old diary from filming Dracula. And she says, quote, she was like, because he was being his Keanu self, being all like,
I'm
oh, I was
so-
barely on set. I wasn't there
Yeah.
at all. You guys were doing the hard work.
Yeah.
And she says, no. You were like the savior of my set experience.
Aw.
Here's like what my diary from that time was like. Quote, angst. Thank God for Keanu. Thank God I'm going to see Keanu.
That's so Winona Ryder credit. I missed when she was really angsty.
I
Now she's
know.
like, she's and like enjoyed her life, which is great. But I really liked
we
when
love
she was
angsty
angsty.
Winona. But I love that she
cute.
is somebody who keeps diaries, and so many of the characters she plays keep
Yeah.
diaries. Like
Yeah.
Mina's got her diary.
Oh my God, yeah,
Veronica
that's true.
Sawyer has her diary. She's
Lydia Dietz. Yeah.
She loves the
Honey.
diary. Does that lady? Let's see. Making of. I love when you can find a list of like the films that a director referenced, and so
Yes, yeah,
obviously
yeah.
there's so much of like the history of like Nosferatu and Sunrise and like all of
There's a
the
lot of material out
history
there.
of vampire films that gets incorporated into this. But Coppola made the cast and crew watch a whole bunch of stuff that
Ooh.
really kind of was not what I was expecting. He screened Citizen Kane, he screened Sergei Eisenstein's Ivan the Terrible, and he screened Orson Welles' Chimes at Midnight. So not really any horror or gothic romance in there, which is really interesting.
But that tracks.
It kind of does, right?
Yeah.
His references are all very precise and mannered, which is really interesting compared to what I described in my notes as like this luxurious, sexy mess that he goes on to make.
Truly.
Like,
it's a great way to describe
it
this
is a
film.
luxurious,
Yeah.
sexy mess. So now we get to the costumes. This is the moment that we've all been waiting
Yeah,
for.
yeah, the costumes in this
Ugh.
it's so hard.
Oh my
They're
god.
so good.
So Eiko Ishioka is the
Mhm.
designer's name. And I adore this woman's brain so fucking much. This is maybe the first movie that I remember seeing and having really click for me how much costumes can tell a story.
Ooh, yeah.
This was something that, like, to be honest, and I'm sorry, Carrie, my incredible costume designer,
Yeah.
before I watched this film, I really didn't understand how important costumes were. I was kind of
Crazy
just like,
bitch.
I know.
I used to do costumes, so it is something
That
that,
makes sense.
really like tells a story. I
It-
think that's why like my
yeah.
personal style is like such a big thing for me.
It's
It's everything.
everything.
Yeah,
It
I
is
could tell you literally everything.
everything.
Yeah.
And up until seeing this movie, I really didn't understand how much of a difference it makes. And this was the one where I was like, oh, the costumes are the
That's
whole
so
story.
funny. I mean,
Yeah,
look at it though, so it does make sense. Like if it's gonna click, this film. would
this
be a
is the
great
one that'll do it.
Yeah.
But Coppola specifically prioritized the costume design so much that kind of his initial pitch for the
Wow.
film was that there be almost no set design at all, that it be this very like stage like sparse thing so that the costumes could
Ooh.
really shine. Because his whole idea was the actors that are the jewels, the focus needs to
Yeah.
be on the actors, the costumes are accentuating my jewels.
Right.
So
That would have been so good also. though.
yes, I could totally see that
Wow,
because
that
this
would've-
is such a theatrical, like stagey
Yeah.
production.
Even the performances and stuff too. It could
Exactly.
have really been
It-
interesting. But the
Mhm.
visuals we get in this are so
It's so
yummy.
juicy. It's so
They're
beautiful
I want
and
to.
delicious.
I want to live in like every single frame that you want to see.
Absolutely.
Every single the colors too. I feel like
Absolutely.
it just doesn't even feel like it exists in this world on
Yeah.
this plane.
But he went in with the sense of like the costumes
Wow.
are more important than
That's it.
everything. Costumes above
Wow.
all else.
He didn't peg me for someone who would
Yeah.
want that.
He at least he knew what he was doing for this one. So let's talk about Eiko. She also did costumes for Tarsem Singh's The Fall and The Cell. So you can kind of see
Okay, that makes
the
sense.
similarity there.
Yep.
She was also the production designer for Mishima, A Life in 4 Acts.
I don't know.
She was uncredited but did costume design for that. So she's this like multi-departmental, multi-talented
She really gets
baddie.
it. Like yeah.
But she also originally started, and this is, I think, how Coppola found her work. She's a graphic designer. And she was the person who did the Japanese posters for the release of Apocalypse Now.
No way.
Mhm. So
Oh,
I'll put this photo up.
sick.
So that's her
Ugh.
background is graphic design, which makes perfect sense because these costumes so work as like abstract geometric shapes.
Oh, absolutely.
And I
Oh,
think
how cool.
she's so willing to take things to stylistic geometric extremes
Mhm.
because she's not really viewing them as costumes, she's viewing them as
Right.
shapes.
Yeah. She's again, it's more like a set piece at that point too.
Exactly.
So very interesting.
And she
Very
said
cool.
that she wanted Dracula's appearance to be, quote, male and female, old and young, ugly and handsome, animal and human, which like, oh,
Nailed it.
Chef's kiss.
Yeah.
There's obviously a lot of kabuki theater influence that spills over into the makeup as well.
Mm-hmm.
She's just incredible, and she actually goes on to win an Oscar for the costume design for this movie.
Yay,
This is
as
the
she
first,
fucking should.
as she should. This is, I think, the first movie we've covered that won an Oscar. It's extremely
At least that
rare
we've
for
noted,
horror.
for sure. Yeah. Wow.
Was nominated for 4, won 3. And I watched her acceptance speech. This baddie. She
Yeah.
goes up, she thanks everybody, and then she thanks Oscar the statue. And then thanks the designer of Oscar the statue and calls him the most beautiful designed man on this planet.
Oh my God, stop it.
I love
She would.
her. Like,
Sassy.
she's so funny. Like,
Yeah.
she's winning a fucking Oscar and she's like, I'm gonna end on a joke.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The other film I think we covered Oscar was Annie Wilkes in Misery.
That's
won
right.
one. Yeah.
That's
I
right.
think she was one of. We have like some.
She
female
won for
horror.
Yes.
Yeah. But,
yeah.
like I think the only Oscar winners we've actually covered in horror
Are
have been
women. Look at that.
Hey. Shadow women.
I love that.
That's so funny. You got to think like, yeah, you're not like the average normal person.
Yeah.
Bless you, Warren. You're not the average like. Yeah, the way her brain works, I'm not surprised
Yeah.
she does something silly like that on stage.
It's
you know what I
so
mean?
funny.
She's living in her own reality.
Well,
at
and
that
she
point.
delivers it so deadpan too that there's like a second where you can tell the audience is like, is she serious before they
Yeah.
start laughing? And it's
Yeah,
like
I love. Oh,
what a
dry sense
queen.
of humor is fucking kill me, man.
a little mini costume tid.
Mhm.
Nina, obviously almost always in green. She wears
That
red
shade of green,
occasionally, but
too.
and it's so gorgeous on her. Most of her green dresses have rosemary motifs on them. And rosemary is a symbol of fidelity and remembrance. So it's this like
Oh.
subconscious hint to the story of Elisabetta. I love when there's like, like Victorian flower language incorporated too. It's
Yeah, she's
so
like
satisfying.
that arsenic green that she's wearing.
It's so good. Yeah. Well, and it's like kind of a hint to the absinthe too, the green fairy.
Yep.
It's
that
a
absinthe
good
green.
contrast to Dracula's armor, which that armor.
Insane. I said it looked like it lived in like a Star Wars universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's take a moment for armor.
Oh, let's.
I thought you'd like this.
This is the year I bought my own armor. So yeah, when it started off with a sword, I was like, pop off.
I knew
Let's
you'd
go.
like this. That helmet, currently
Yeah.
owned by Guillermo del Toro. Yeah, it's in his
One
collection
of his
now.
little curiosities. Got it.
It's
Checks
in his
out.
cabinet.
God, he's on
Um,
my Rob list.
Oh my god, now truly.
He's like the only house
Watch
I
out,
wanna hit up.
Guillermo.
Yeah. If I find out where you live, nothing will be done about it.
You just see Al scampering out on the footage from his camera, just wearing the mask, just like ah.
Yeah, not even trying to disguise. Right? That would actually be a sick way to fucking just walk out with all the things on.
Just dressed
Now
in
everyone
all the
knows my
things you
plan.
stole.
Damn it.
Perfect. The perfect crime. Oh my god. So obviously the armor is designed to look like a fleed human, which I was thinking about that, and I was also like, even creepier, given that the character at the beginning, Vlad, is in like the 1400s-ish. There wasn't like widespread medical knowledge of anatomy at that time.
No.
So that really tells you that that character was flaying people and studying their bodies and then commissioning armor based on it, because we didn't really know what the human musculature looked like at that point in history.
Yeah.
So just like
That's so funny.
I was thinking about that and got a little freaked out by it.
It reminds me, I forget the poem, but there's a Sylvia Plath poem that talks about like cutting the thumb and how it has layers like an onion. And it's always been one of my like favorite lines in a poem.
So good.
And so that's very much
Sylvia and her
reminiscent.
body horror, man.
I
She's
know. Yeah, the way she just
disgusting. I
cool,
love
but
it.
That
Yeah.
reminds me of the armor.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool.
And for Al's sake,
Yay!
I brought in an armor review from a blacksmith who
Oh my
used to
God,
fight in
stop.
armor, who I know, which I thought you would enjoy.
I love these tids just for me. I don't care if anyone doesn't enjoy these with me.
This is-
Sorry,
yeah.
y'all, but like I love this.
This is
Thank you.
just for Al's sake.
Oh my gosh.
So we have some
Thank you.
pros and some cons to the suit of armor.
Okay. Yeah,
So
as we do.
practically, there's no hip line, which is a line designed to rest your hips when you're wearing a heavy harness so that your weight's better distributed.
Yeah.
The shoulders aren't jointed, so you can't have a full range of motion.
Yep.
The eyelets are too open, so you're going to get an arrow really easily. The ears on the helmet are probably going to unbalance you. So practically,
Oh, didn't think about
not a
ears.
great suit of armor to fight in.
Right. But it looks cool.
However, my friend did want to note that the gauntlets are actually well based off of historic late Gothic armor, so they got that right.
That's cool.
So
Sometimes for dramatics, you gotta just,
I feel like it's also very in character that
Yeah.
Vlad cares less about staying safe than he
Yeah,
does
yeah, yeah.
about looking like a flayed corpse.
Yeah. It's like I
Like,
kind of want to go out with
priorities.
a statement.
Yes.
It's an aesthetic.
It's for the vibes.
Yeah.
It's for the vibes.
It's so funny. For the girls.
So, of course, because Coppola, at this point in his career, has a well-earned reputation for being unable to finish a movie on time and on budget. And he's desperate to prove that reputation wrong.
Yeah.
So he decides that he's going to shoot this almost all on a soundstage.
He's got nothing to lose, yeah.
He's got nothing. Well,
he's got
$20
money to
million
lose, but-
in debt, but he can only get further in.
Exactly. He has nothing to lose. He has no money to
He
lose.
has no money. He has negative to lose. He only has gain.
Yeah.
So he decides he's going to shoot almost entirely on sound stages, largely so that weather doesn't get in the way, which I feel very personally attacked by. That wasn't his only reason, though, for avoiding location work. And I brought in a quote. He said, "Quite frankly, from my own standpoint, the idea of going to Romania was sort of terrifying. I said, there I'll be in goddamn Romania in some castle at 2 a.m. trying to sleep, and some looming shadow will come in, and then sure, my boy had fear of all those horror movie figures. It'll all come back to me." And I said, again, relate.
Honestly, that's kind of amazing because he was so immersed in it. That
Yeah,
he was
he's
like,
like, I'm going to get freaked out.
I'm good.
Yeah. I'm going to get spooked.
Yeah. It would also just, again, I like the surrealness of this film and kind of adding real locations, I think would have done it a disservice.
I agree. I was thinking about this when you were talking about the fact that yours shoots in 4 different places. I think we get the best of both worlds, of the absolute best of what shooting on location can do for you and the absolute best of what shooting in a studio can do for you. And it's just they're 2 different flavors.
Oh, absolutely.
They're 2 different flavors and they do different things. But even the Borgo Pass sequence at the end, all indoors.
That's so crazy.
All indoors.
So cool.
They shot it in this, I think the biggest soundstage on the studio, where the whole wall was just this fake snow running around a curved corner, so that it looks like it's all extra space.
Cool to see big sets like that almost freak me out. My brain can't comprehend them.
It reminds me of dioramas in a museum, in a natural history museum when you're a kid. Anyway, so another thing that I felt kind of called out by, he used this kind of summer camp setup for the set to create the bonds he was looking for between performers. So he invited all the leads to his Napa Valley property to kind of this Coppola camp where they would improv together, they'd eat together, they'd read bits of the novel aloud together. He sent all the ones who go on the vampire hunting mission, he created little adventures for them. So he made them go horseback riding together. He made them go hot air ballooning together so that they'd build this camaraderie. Except Oldman, who was excluded from everything because he wanted to keep the vampires separate from the vampire hunters.
I'd be pissed if I didn't get to go to summer camp.
I know.
I'm
so,
can I ride the ponies just separate? Can I go after everybody at night, perhaps?
Right. And so meanwhile, according to Carrie Elwes, not only is Oldman housed separately from everybody else during all the rehearsals, he actually slept in a coffin the whole time. That's how committed he was. So
I kind of want to sleep in a coffin, to be fair.
I absolutely would sleep in it. I mean,
So
if I'm not getting to go on the hot air balloon rides, I'm gonna sleep in a coffin.
Yeah, I'll be in my fucking coffin.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. It sounds like he didn't want to go method. It sounds like he basically just got bullied out.
Honestly.
And he was just fucking okay then.
It sounds
fine.
not
Fuck
a great
you
time
guys.
for Gary Oldman in a lot of ways.
No. I'll be over here with my zucchinis, I guess.
Truly.
In my coffin.
So there's a controversial behind the scenes story where, the scene where Dracula and Mina are in bed and then the others kind of come rushing in. She jumps out of bed. He turns into a pile of rats, and she starts crying.
Yeah.
Coppola really wanted Winona to cry. And in 2020, Winona Ryder, in typical Winona fashion, is not really thinking about the fact that she's a star who's giving interviews about famous people.
Oh my God, she's so funny.
And reveals a little story that she probably shouldn't have.
Oh, she probably still, that haunts her still.
Yep. So,
she oopsies
I know it
sometimes,
does.
yeah.
I know it does because we're going to get to what her PR team said afterwards. So, according to Winona, Coppola was standing off camera during the scene yelling things like, "You whore," to try and get her to cry. And she was like, this is having the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Don't want to cry. Feeling lots of other things.
Yeah.
But, he asked the rest of the crew to join in too. And Keanu Reeves and Hopkins were the 2 who refused. And so she was telling the story to shout out how kind they were.
Yeah.
And Coppola comes in and is like, "This story isn't true." And so his version of the story is that he was just asking Gary Oldman to whisper scary things to everybody on set.
Okay.
And then one of Winona's spokespeople comes in and issues a
That's when you know.
statement
That's
being
when you know.
like confirms Coppola's version and basically says like, yes, while this method didn't work for Winona, she has so much respect for him. And I'm like,
yeah, of course. Oh my god, a
so,
new PR man.
yeah.
Jeez.
There's more to read into there. I didn't want to go hugely in depth.
Yeah, you gotta really hold things close to the belt there.
Truly. Obviously, this movie was made in a time before intimacy coordinators were really a thing.
Yeah.
Coppola did, however, he was nervous about directing the sex scenes.
Okay.
And so he brought in acting coach Greta Seacat to help the actresses feel safe, which I do love that he did that.
Wow.
Although it kind of does sound like it was as much about him being uncomfortable talking to them about sex as
I was
the other way
gonna
around.
say he's just the man's never had sex, didn't know what to do.
Yes, he's just like, how do I make things sexy? Help!
Yeah, no offense to him or offense. He wouldn't fucking know how to make
He
things
wouldn't know.
sexy.
So, however,
Oh my god.
lest we give Coppola too much credit,
Yeah.
there is a story from Sadie Frost, who plays Lucy, that she shares in her memoir, where apparently she shows up to set one day and gets told that there's a hairstylist there. And she's like, but I'm wearing a wig. Why do I need a hairstylist? Yeah. And she's told that the hairstylist has been sent in to trim her bush because they need her to like, quote unquote, like look clean for like American aesthetics. And she's a British actress.
Oh, that would have sent me off the fucking rails.
Yeah. My note was like, give a girl some warning. My God. Like, if you're going to ask that of your actress, put it in her contract.
Yeah,
Put
that
it in her
should be
contract.
a conversation.
That should not be a thing you're finding out the day you get to set.
I'd be like, I'm good.
Not
No.
happening.
Yeah.
Bush is staying, bitch.
Yeah.
Like,
The bush is here.
Bush is here to stay.
Damn. Oh
Yeah.
my god, that. Oh, I hate when people use the word like clean.
It's so gross. It's so
Ugh.
gross. So
Yuck.
now we get to the part we've all been waiting for, the special effects.
Yeah.
So Coppola's thinking for this project was that because the film takes place around the time that cinema as a medium was born, the effects should be accomplished in camera the way like early Georges Méliès films were.
Cool.
So he wants it all to be turn-of-the-century camera tricks.
Sick.
And here's a quote from him. I thought, well, Dracula was written at the same time as cinema was invented because it comes out in 97. The first camera is invented in 1895. So written around the same time cinema was invented. What if I made Dracula much in the same way that the earliest cinema practitioners would have? You know, making a thing that is in fact what it is also about. So satisfying, right?
Yes.
So Coppola hires this like crack team of practical FX people,
Okay.
and they come up to him and they're like, you're not going to get what you're looking for without digital effects. And this is like the prime time for the birth of CGI. It's 92.
Yeah.
And so what does he do? He fires them all and hires instead his son Roman.
I saw
Yes.
Roman's name.
Yeah. So he hires his son Roman. Why? Because Roman loves magic tricks. Yeah.
Same, Roman.
hmm
Same.
And as insane as that sounds, it ends up being the right choice because Roman comes in and does things like rear projection. They do multiple exposures instead of digital matting. So, like, even the scene where Keanu Reeves is walking down the hallway and there's like the rats like scaring above, they shot the rats running along the beam as a matte frame, cut out that specialty shape, covered the film stock for that, and then like shot that as a double exposure so that none of it was done in post.
See, that's why it feels so. Yeah, I don't know. I want to
It's
say like
so
tactical.
tactile, yeah. Well, and it feels again very theatrical.
Yeah. Oh my god, love that.
There's a lot of use of forced perspective. There's a lot of miniatures. They tilt the set occasionally to create this warped sense of gravity when the vampire's around. During the shaving scene, they actually had the walls slowly move into the characters
Oh, I
to
noticed
create
that.
the sense of
Oh, it
claustrophobia.
was so good. Yeah.
For the mirror shots, they had trick mirrors, so that there's like an empty space behind, so that the reflection can be slightly out of sync from, which love. You know the shot with the coachman reaching out to grab Jonathan Harker and pull him in. They did that by the carriage is actually the part that the coachman is sitting on is actually a camera crane. It's been like covered with like set design essentially, so that then when he does the gesture to reach out and then the camera moves forward, once the camera's framed him out, the crane pushes in so that it creates this look like his arm goes on for like 8 feet.
Oh my god, cool.
And it's actually just he's just like moving over towards and then like pulls him back
that
in.
shit up.
It's so
satisfying.
satisfying.
Disney theme parks do a lot of tricks like that too.
Oh,
There's a lot of forced perspective and like
That's
mirror
so
tricks and
cool.
stuff like that. So
they
I don't know.
also
Sorry, Disney adult.
no, love it. They also do a lot of poor man's process in this. Do you know what that is?
No, I don't.
I knew of this, did not know this term until I shot my movie because I had to use it on it.
Oh, okay.
Didn't plan to.
Yeah.
Poor man's process is something that you probably all know the idea of, but probably also have not heard called by this term. That's when instead of shooting a moving vehicle, you have people on either side of the vehicle shaking it to create the sense of movement and like moving leaves and
Yep.
like scrims and stuff like that so that you create the
the
shadows to create this sense of movement. So they did that for like the carriage, the train scene in particular. They had like several different layers of painted backdrop that the carriage was moving past. Which again, very operatic, very stagey.
So funny.
Very demure.
Yeah, very demure, very mindful.
Very mindful.
That's so funny. I love when I feel like that always looks better.
It does. It does.
You know what I mean? So.
Well, it has that old-fashioned magic to it. You can see a lot of these in action in this amazing behind-the-scenes featurette that I found on YouTube. It's called In Camera, the Naive Visual Effects of Dracula.
Oh, sick. I'm going to have to check that out for sure.
I'll send you a link. It's the one that I showed you the little clip
the
of
clip
yesterday
of
where Keanu's just like geeking out about practical effects. He's so cute.
He is all of us in that clip, to be fair.
And one of Roman's favorite tricks that he uses on this movie is something, I'm assuming it's pronounced pixelation, like the same way it would be with like pixels on a screen, but it's Pixil. So pixelation, which I did not know about this, and I'm fascinated by it. So it's used in the original Nosferatu too. It's used here as well. This is the word for when you do stop motion with real performers. So like when you are stopping and starting the camera to create this like series of, like in Nosferatu, when Nosferatu like moves across a floor really quickly, that's pixelation.
Yeah.
So, but
was that all the backwards stuff that they did?
But they did something kind of interesting in this one where instead of just using pixelation the way a silent film might, he kind of freaked it a little bit and said, quote, "The trick is to click off frames erratically.
So it's not so steady.
Single frames and then a burst of several per second, giving the effect of an animal-like sensory perception, something primordial." So they used that for all of the like POV Dracula cameras because they wanted to create something that was visually unique to convey that.
It wasn't super smooth. It kind of gave you this like kind of
it's jittery.
A little bit. Jittery. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for.
They also, for Dracula's first arrival in London, they shot that on an actual turn-of-the-century box camera, which is
how fun, man! They really did.
They
did it.
They did it. They did it right.
I have more appreciation for it.
Yeah,
for sure. That's cool.
This is one that was, as we're moving into release, this was censored not for ratings purposes, but based on audience reaction. People thought the original was way too gory, and as much as like 25 minutes of footage was cut, which,
holy shit, 25 minutes.
There's a lot of extra scenes on the special features. I have not watched all of them, but this one has 30 minutes of cut scenes.
Holy
shit.
That's a lot of film.
It's a lot of cut scenes. I told you the budget was 40 million, which is chonky. Earned 215.9 mil back. So
nice done.
Yeah. So similar profit to yours, but made for a little bit less. Which I think, again, largely just because it was all in studio. That's
for sure. And I think even just kind of like, I imagine if they would have had digital effects, the budget would have gone up there too versus doing those practicals. So.
And I'd also noted that it was one of the highest grossing vampire movies of all time. It's after Interview with a Vampire, I Am Legend, and The Twilight Saga.
Which, this is what I gotta say about like vampire films. I think it's why I've never been able to like be like, I like vampires vampires as a genre, because they're wildly different.
It's true. But
And nothing's the
a
same.
vampire film could be anything.
It is everything.
Yes, it is.
Not one of them. I feel like they're like little snowflakes. Not one of them
not
feels
one is
the same.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Not one bites the same.
Yeah.
Again, I mentioned this won Academy Awards. It also was nominated. It was nominated for costume design, sound editing, makeup, and art direction. Won for everything except art direction.
Damn.
Also got nominated for BAFTAs, Chicago Film Critics, Fangoria Chainsaw, Hugo, Saturn. Lots of
Yeah.
nominations. Currently holds a 69% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Hey.
Holds a 79% from audiences, which is
Okay.
interesting to me. So this is slightly less popular with audiences
Yeah.
and slightly more popular with critics than yours.
Weirder.
It's a little weirder. It's a little weird. Which is honestly higher than I would have thought because people love to mock this movie. People
Do they?
love to mock
I don't
this
live in
movie.
the verse where I know anything about this film.
It's
so.
mainly Keanu Reeves. People make
He's actually
such fun of his accent that they like trash the whole movie. And I'm like, this movie is genius.
He's the problem. I have the least problem with him actually in this
That's
film.
fascinating.
Like with my minute problems
Yeah.
that I have with this film.
I'm almost done with my
Okay.
notes, and then I want to hear about your
cool.
problems because I'm so
I want to
curious.
hear your problems.
Ah,
Which one, Sienna? About the film? Or?
Oh my god, so many ways this could go. There's actually the critical response section of the Wikipedia page has like a whole subsection just for critiques of Keanu Reeves' performance. That's how brutal people were.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. It's made like so many lists of like the worst movie accents of all time.
the Razzie Awards back then, he definitely would have won.
Oh, absolutely. There's also, I don't know enough about Dutch accents to agree or disagree, but there is somebody who on IMDb points out that Anthony Hopkins' Dutch accent isn't good either, and nobody criticizes that. I don't really know enough about Dutch accents to be able to comment on that, but I do
Yeah.
think it's a fair point that part of the reason we're so hard on that is because he's doing a British accent, and everybody else in this movie is doing very intense accents, and I don't know that they're necessarily good either. We just don't have as much of a point of comparison.
Yeah. They're not great.
Yeah. At the time this was released, there was a VHS special edition that came in a little coffin with a copy of the book, which like, oh my god, I want one so bad. I want one so bad. There's obviously this had like all of the merchandise things that film in the 90s can have merchandise wise. It had a novelization, comic book, weapon replicas, pinball games, and there's Dracula Funko Pops now from this movie.
Yep.
There's all of the things. This has spawned an enormous number of projects that it's influenced. Mel Brooks' last parody film, Dracula Dead and Lovin' It, is a direct parody of this.
Funny.
There's a Simpsons parody.
Yeah. Simpsons parodies, everybody.
What We Do in the Shadows, the Doug Jones character, is very clearly Dracula from this movie. Jessica Chastain referenced it for her Crimson Peak prep.
Oh, funny.
There's all sorts of...
Wow.
This film really
dug its foot into pop
influenced
culture.
particularly because up until this, the image culturally for vampires was from the 1930s version. So it was the intense fangs, the very stilted accent, and the cape. And this is none of those things. We do not see a cape. All of the fangs, the idea of retractable fangs is one that comes from this movie that then gets taken up in yours. There's lots of little things like that. Which brings me to, let me hold on my little film theory tiny desk because I want to hear your thoughts.
Oh,
Yes.
I want to hear your thoughts too. You love this
We'll,
film.
we'll get to it. But
Now I feel
Put you
bad
on the
like
spot.
interjecting. I feel like you should do your tiny desk.
no.
first. I told myself I think I should have watched this first
Oh, interesting.
because I
it's
watched
such a reference for yours.
and it like tonally I was expecting them to be the same.
Mm.
Big mistake on my part.
Mine takes itself
Big,
real
big.
serious.
Big.
Real serious.
Wait, this one yours?
Yes. Yeah.
I don't feel that way. And I actually got an argument about it last night. It's so wildly camp to me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because the definition of camp
Yeah.
is like it takes itself seriously and
Yeah.
it doesn't know it's camp. And so for me, it's like when I saw like the Renfield character, like
Yeah.
I wanted
More of that.
I wanted like
Those are the moments that work best to me.
I wanted camera angles fucking tilted. I wanted
mhm.
just more because I felt like it
expressionist.
fell in between of feeling too serious and then too bonker, or like not too bonkers, but like bonkers, but not enough. And I really wanted it to swing one way or the other. So I think my problem with it is that, well, one, the visuals, no notes.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Costumes,
yeah.
unbelievable. I've never seen a film that looked like this before. And that in itself is so fun to experience for the first time. But I just wanted it to be a little bit more crazy. Because even when like Lucy's death, when she comes back and there's a visual of her in the dress and her head gets cut off and all these things, I'm like, I just wanted more.
That neck ruff?
That outfit. I'm
Glorious.
so glad they put her in that like a few times.
Again, eco.
Yeah,
Genius.
yeah. But so
Genius.
I had a problem with it because I just felt like there was a lot going on. And maybe I just wasn't prepped for it in the way that I should have. I think I went into interview and thought I was going to get the same, but I should know better because every vampire film is fucking different. So I just wanted it to go. I like take off points for I just wanted it to go more.
See, I think that's part of what again, like this film is such a luxurious mess. Like the fact
I love you
that
saying that though, because it is.
It's
a luxurious
so
mess.
like it's a hot mess. She's a messy bitch.
Yeah.
Like,
I guess I just didn't know that. I thought it was gonna be. Also, I talked to like you last night, and I was like, "Is it gonna be like Pride and Prejudice?" And I feel like you all were hearing that in a different vein.
Yeah, what did you mean by that?
I thought tonally and visually it was gonna be like Pride and Prejudice.
No.
So I think I set myself up for disappointment.
That's
in
fair.
This, and I think that's like something I've learned
that
doing
makes me
this
so sad.
podcast is that sometimes when we do these double features, I just have to watch things.
It's hard not to bring
what
stuff
they
from one
are.
film into the other.
Yeah. So, but I loved it. I thought I was gonna love this one more than I love Interview. I love Interview more than this.
I knew Interview was gonna be your favorite of the two.
But visually, it was like,
yeah,
I like holy shit.
I also
was so hot in it too.
I also just I truly think this is one of the horniest films of all time, and I admire it for that.
I feel like Interview was hornier for me. I don't know if it's because I don't know if it's because it was more gay, and this one felt more hetero.
See, this film again. Something about this film just feels very gay to me, even though
it's still very gay. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's vampires.
Like one of my notes was like, I can't believe this movie was made by an ostensibly straight man. Like
that I can't believe.
Wild.
I had to be reminded it was Coppola.
It's insane that it's
like, why doesn't he do more of this?
Yeah.
If I would have saw it as a child, I think it would have
that makes sense.
I would have had the more like again the gay awakening and the women. I would have I truly don't think I've been able to process. I would have to watch this film quietly with myself because it would have been too much of an impact on me. Yeah, so that's my thoughts. I feel like I really need to watch it again. To
what would you rate
it
it currently?
I feel like a 3.5.
I
know.
Well, which to be fair is higher than a lot of people would rate it because again, many people point and laugh at this as like the worst Coppola.
See, I don't have like an issue. I don't think I have the same issues like the
other
masses
people
have with it. I think I just set myself up for something because like the accents, I felt like the bad accents and the like. I felt all those things like actually lended to it, and that's what I enjoyed about it.
And I have thoughts on why.
Okay, yeah. So sorry, that
no.
I
love this.
I was so scared to tell you.
No, I'm not surprised. I'm disappointed.
I set myself
up
wrong. I set myself up wrong. I have myself to blame a little bit.
These things.
I think it would go up to a 4. I gotta watch it again.
Keep me updated.
But 3. Yeah, I will. 3.5 for now. I'm new to the vampires.
Fair.
I say, but I like love. We do in the shadows, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But
yeah.
Okay, so I want to hear your little tiny desk.
My tiny desk, because this is like a short film theory corner. But I mean, like, there thematic notes to get out of the way. Like, a lot has been written about the ways both the film and the source novel serve as metaphors for all sorts of things, for interaction between the British Empire and like a racialized other, for AIDS, for so many different things. There's a great Frank Rich review in the New York Times that came out in 92 that was all about like why this film is about AIDS. That's really horrifying and interesting to read. I actually brought in a quote from it where he says, "The movie that both frightens and arouses by playing off the unchecked fear of further AIDS invasions in the national bloodstream. Bram Stoker's Dracula is an orgy of blood-sucking, bloodletting, and blood poisoning. It is beyond Grand Guignol. It is opera for the new blood culture," which, like, opera for the new blood culture. Band name. So good. But I don't want to get into that because Frank Rich already did a gorgeous job talking about it.
There's some good sources on both these films.
Yes. What I'm interested in is the way the idea of the vampire and the idea of movies relate. Because both my film and your film draw this comparison between the vampire and cinema.
Yep.
And I was thinking about this particularly in terms of camp and changing styles in movies, where I feel like a lot of what doesn't work for people about Dracula is that there's a lot of this movie that is shot in the style of a silent film. In terms of the acting in particular, the performances, the theatricality, and like that is not actors not doing their job. That is actors doing a style. But the thing that I got really kind of caught up in the idea of was like, I feel like particularly at this point in Francis Ford Coppola's career, film itself probably felt like a vampire to him.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, he's $20 million in debt. He's one of the most famous filmmakers of all time, and yet this thing is literally sucking his life force day by day. And he thinks that he's gonna like pour his heart, flesh, and soul into making this one movie that's gonna pull him out of it, to resurrect his career. He fires all of his staff and brings his family on, so it's just the blood, you know? And the idea of film is this thing that is beautiful and elegant and pale when you think about Silver Nitrate, what the original films were shot on, that black and white. The look of those negatives looks a lot like a vampire, just in terms of the colors, the paleness, you know, it can burst into flames at any second if you put it in the sun. Like, there are so many points of connection you can draw. It also, film requires and draws seemingly endless money and resources and is kind of parasitic towards other art forms, where it pulls pieces from all of them. And I can very much imagine. And so I was thinking about it and I was like, who is the author insert in this? I think it's Mina. I think it's Mina. I think that's who Coppola is in this story. He's not the vampire. Film is the vampire. And he's not Harker. Harker's a nothing.
I was going to say,
he is the one who is in this tortured relationship with this thing that wants to drain his life force and also could be the only thing that could give him eternal life. And that's like the story of film, baby.
I was going to say, and he's such like that film guy too. So to go back to this like old style of making film and really like immersing himself and just throwing himself into this, I think is like the perfect, I mean, it's art within itself.
It is.
And it's so cool. Yeah. I appreciate him for that. I'm not like a huge fan of him.
I'm not a huge Coppola person.
Yeah.
This I love.
This I am.
Yeah.
This is where the hashtag film bro, like I'm like yes.
Although this is one film bros largely hate, which is part of why I love it so much. It's not for them.
It's so funny.
Because it's so nerdy. It's so gay.
Yeah, that's
it's
the thing.
So extravagant and over the top and campy and costume centric and luscious.
You know what? They don't deserve this film.
It's not for them.
You know what? Now it gets a 4 out of 5 for me, just for that.
That's part of why I love it, is because I think there's a little bit of homophobia in the reaction to it, where
100%.
people see Apocalypse Now director and expect something that's going to be like gritty,
like manly,
and
masculine,
and masculine, and instead it's like drippy and hot and gross. Yeah.
It's so funny because then it like Interview being such a success with these two, you know, very masculine.
Yes.
Like throughout their entire career, very masculine performers
who are then made
being
to play
so
femme.
gay. And I'm just wondering, like, where did they just like not connect dots? It's like, oh, but they're just vampires. They're just like, they just want a friend. It's like, okay.
Gay.
And they were roommates.
Yeah.
Sure.
Gay. It's all gay. If they're vampires, they're gay.
You're gay.
They're gay.
Yeah. You live forever. You think you're going to, like, drink from one water source?
Truly.
I don't know. From one neck? What am I saying? I was about to say a really horrible
now you have to.
No.
Yes.
But yeah, I find that wild that they had issue with that one and not with Interview.
It's insane.
It feels very, well, maybe they do have a problem with Interview, but
I think again a lot of it is because people came to this expecting Francis Ford Coppola. People expect it to be very serious, and again, it takes itself seriously, but people expect the movie itself to be very like down to earth and grounded, and it ain't.
Oh no,
It ain't.
far from it.
And that's what I love. That's what I love. I also I'm just looking through my watch notes. The only things that I want to shout out here before I end are I would watch my colonial tongue if I were you. What I'm saying to all Texan tourists from now until the end of time.
We need to really
Yes.
put that in the rotation. Can you remind me of that one? Watch your colonial,
I'd
especially
watch
New
my
Mexico.
colonial tongue if I were you.
I feel like that needs to pop off in this state.
So good. So had to shout that out.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
just
There's
had to
some
say
good lines.
it's so a foul bauble of man's vanity. Like
Bauble.
a foul bauble of
Yeah.
man's vanity. What I'm calling mirrors from now until the end of time.
The quotes in yours were unreal.
It's
I feel like
so
I didn't take
good.
notes on this one because I was trying so hard because I knew it was such like it's a visual movie. So
You
I feel like if
can't
I
look
looked
away
up for
from
1
the
second, I missed
screen. Yeah.
everything. So I didn't do watch notes, but man, I should have because there were definitely some quotes. So if I do it
There's so
again, I'll
much.
let you. I'll let you
So
know
much.
this.
And I also just said, I need to know young Dracula's curl care routine because that mane, immaculate.
Right.
Immaculate.
You should have brushed them out a little bit, but they
Fair.
were good looking.
Yeah. So silky.
Yeah, really silky.
Yeah.
Pantene.
I want to pet it.
He was a little Pantene commercial. walking
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We really
Whew. Whew.
killed that one. Gotta go.
This was
take a-
fun.
Yeah.
I'm- yeah.
love that we chose
This
vampire films.
was a good
Yeah,
pairing.
felt
Yeah.
different.
I know obviously we're gonna take a while, but I would love to do another vampire pairing. At some
Same. I
point.
feel like there's definitely other stuff that we
There's
could do that's like wildly different than this
so
type
many.
of
Yeah.
vampire. Just a reminder if you guys want to see Interview with a Vampire on the big screen,
Mm-hmm.
JeanCocteauCinema.com. Tickets are on sale.
17th through 19th.
Yeah, there will be posters and some bloody drinks. We were definitely having
Yes.
too much fun in our programming meeting talking about them.
Oh my god, yeah. I'm
so
so excited.
yeah, we had too many ideas. I really want to do the Vampire's Kiss because that's a cocktail I got drunk off a few times at the
Oh my
cinema,
God,
and it was so
amazing.
good.
Which also
so-
connection because it's another vampire film made by a Coppola family member.
Oh, so which one?
I
Which
can't
Coppola?
remember which one directed it, but
so many of
also
them.
Nick Cage himself, Coppola family member.
Yeah, I was gonna
so
say he's a Coppola.
he's a
so,
Coppola.
yeah.
Should we tell people what we're doing next time?
Yeah, we like just decided.
We
We
just
had these on the
decided.
books for a while,
Yeah.
and I feel like this
Its
felt like the
time has
perfect
come.
placement. So
Yeah.
I don't know the dates of mine actually.
I believe mine is 99. I want
Is
to
it?
say. I think.
Yeah.
Is that right? I feel like Warren would know this.
Yeah,
Is
we're gonna
it
have you guys
99?
look
You
what
have a
we-
T-shirt from it.
So we're
Is it?
doing.
I'm doing Blair Witch Project. 99? 1999. I'm pretty sure it's 1999.
I'm
We're
gonna
gonna go with that.
Travel look up my date.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do Mark Duplass's Creep, which is from
2014.
2014.
Ah, look at
that makes
that.
sense.
That feels
So
very Al-Qaeda,
both found footage,
Mm.
both
Wintry. I
yeah,
feel like.
woodsy, take
Yeah.
place in the woods. I don't know. I feel like these are going to be an interesting pairing.
Mhm.
I know there's a new creep tapes. Either it's come out or it's coming out. I can't remember now the date of the.
Time's not real. It's fine.
But I love Mark Duplass. I'm just looking forward to talking about him. I
I'm
think
not actually sure I've seen his work before. I know of the Duplass brothers, but I don't
Oh
think
my
I've actually
God.
seen.
they're they do a little, I don't know, they have like so much like heart. They feel like real filmmakers to me in the sense of like they don't mind having a small budget as long as they can do the project the way they want to do it.
Love that.
They have a amazing show. It just wrapped its third season. It just aired its third season called Somebody Somewhere. I can't remember what platform it's HBO Max. It is wildly different from his source stuff, but it's
Ooh.
like such a slice of reality, and I feel like he really like gets
Love.
real performances. But he stars in this, so
Ooh, fancy.
yeah. So I'm very
I'm
excited to
intrigued.
finally.
Yeah.
I feel like we could have paired Blair Witch with like
so many things.
anything.
Yeah. Well, because it spawned so many imitators.
yeah. So
But I don't
don't
know.
know.
Activity. Like there's so many movies that came because of Blair
yeah.
Witch, but I like where your brain is going with
yeah.
this.
So I don't know. I feel
Yeah.
like that. I'm excited to talk about these. We haven't done it. I know
Yeah.
it's like
It's our
mumble
first-
gore. I don't know if yours is like mumble gore or not.
No, but it's our
considered,
first found footage pairing.
Yeah, which is
will be
wild.
fun.
It's been like
yeah.
over a year since we
Yeah.
haven't done it yet. So, yeah, that's it. I don't know where else to go from there. I think
I feel like we both
is
need
that
to go get some more blood. I
Yeah,
feel like
I know,
I'm feeling
I'm
myself
feeling a little
fading.
woozy here,
yeah,
so,
feeling a little woozy.
On that note, thank you, Warren Langford. I'm sorry if you hear sniffles. That's Warren. I'm blaming you.
Yeah.
I also said he's the audio guy. He can cut him out. Thanks, Travis Fowler, for shouting out times.
Yep, and
thank
giggling
you.
at us occasionally.
Thanks, Theo Schaefer, for the music as always. Thank you, Siena, for today. This was fun.
Oh, yeah, I don't think you've ever thanked me.
Okay, yes, I have. Shut the fuck up. I
Not
take it
on
back.
air.
I take it back.
Thanks to everyone except my co-host Al.
Perfect. That's the way I like it. Don't give me attention.
Good. Perfect.
Until then, thanks for listening to Splice and Splatter.
The film podcast presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where classic horror.
Smart and gore.
And until next time, we'll be right back.